Kembali sedikit sih. Oh gitu.
Was very excited. Everyone, whole thing.
How is Toby?
Okay, so it is.
Hi, how are you? Thank you.
So many places. Sure. Well, let's go. Thanks very much. I appreciate you. Guided by. Yeah, regulation. Om, Om, Om. Namaste and Vanakkam. All protocols observed. I will do the introduction, and my revered host, Shri will later on do the official welcome. Today is really an auspicious day because we've had the blessings of the divine in the form of rain. When rain comes, it's a blessing from heaven. We've gathered here today at the sacred Shri Mariamman temple site during this auspicious Amman festival to honor Shri Swami Annamalai of the Bharatiya Janata Party, which is the largest political party in the world with over 100 million members. I am Pradeep Rama. Your program director for this evening. Shri Annamalai is the BJP state president of Tamil Nadu. Our program is in keeping with the shlokas from the Taittiriya Upanishad, Atiti Devo Bhava. We revere our guests with the same respect as a god. As India rises in the world as the fifth largest economy, we remember what Sri Aurobindo stated in his famous Uttapara speech in June 1909, upon release from the Alipur jail. When India rises, it is Sanatana Dharma that is rising. Sri Annamalai is here to represent the largest democracy at the political party meeting for the BRICS countries. BRICS has emerged as a powerful alliance of emerging market economies over the course of the 21st century, comprising of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, as the acronym alludes to. The group has increasingly become a major group of South-South cooperation to meet the needs of more than 40% of the world's population. Just this year, the BRICS overtook the G7. G7 is the richest group of countries in the world in terms of global GDP contribution, with the group accounting for almost 1/3 of the world's economic activity. This is the power of South-South cooperation, and India was represented politically by Shri Swami Annamalai together with 3 other members of the Bharatiya Janata Party. So, in terms of custom, we would like to follow the procedure of doing the official Dharana. Our next item is a prayer by Guru Karuna Nadu, Pandit Sukesh Maharaj, Guru Sharma, Guru Shankar, and Guru Ravi Iyer. Please, respected priest, you may start with the prayer.
Welcome, Namaste, Namaskar, Namaskar. We all please rise in prayer. In our negativity, in some of us, let us start with गजाननभूषणादिसेवित्वं कवित्तजम्बफलसारभक्षितम् उमाशुकं शोकविनाशकारणं वन्दे विघ्नेश्वरा श्रीपादपङ्कजम्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। नंदी
Namaste, welcome. All the hands together in prayer. Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasme Shri Guruve Namaha. Dhyanamoolam Gururmurti Poojamulam Gurupadam Mantramulam Gururvakyam Mokshamulam Gurukripa Mokshamulam Sivanande Kripa Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhu Chasakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Hari Om. Once again, welcome to our beloved country, South Africa. We love you. Jai Sanatana Dharma, Jai Hind. Namaste, Namaste.
Om Shri, Namaste, Vanakkam. It is my privilege to be prayer for our great political leader here, following our great Prime Minister of India. I am sure our next Chief Minister will be Annamalai, our great Annamalai. Bhagavan Sri Satya Sai Baba and our temple, Sudamara temple of India, 21,600 golden tiles there. Lord Shiva is controlling our breath from there. Let's we put the hand together and we will pray for our political leader and all of you together for India University. உலகெல்லாம் நன்று ஓதுதற்கரியவன் உலகெல்லாம் நன்று ஓதுதற்கரியவன் நிலவுலாவியன் நீர்மலி வேணியன் நிலவுலாவியன் What is walking in the moon? நிலவுலாவியன் நீர்மலிவேணியன் அழகில் சோதியன் அம்பலத்தில் ஆடுவான் மலர் சிலம்படி வாழ்த்தி வணங்குவான் மலர் சிலம்படி வாழ்த்தி வணங்குவான் கிருபாசமுத்திரம் சுமுகம் திரிநேத்திரம் ஜடாதரம் பார்வதி பாபவாகம் சதாசிவம் ருத்ரம் அனந்தரூபம் சிதம்பரேசம் ஸ்ரீதிவாவயாமே ஸ்ரீதிவாவயாமே குறித்த பிரகோபம் கோவை செவ்வாயிற்கு மச்சரிப்பும் பனித்த சடையில் பவளம் போல் வெளியிட பாகண்டீரும் இனித்தமுடைய பொற்பாதமும் காணப்பெற்றால் மனித பிரவியம் வேண்டுவரோ இந்த மாநிலத்தே சாயீஸ்வராய வித்மகே சத்யதேவாய தீமகே தன்னோ சர்வம் பிரச்சோதயாத். ஹரி ஓம் தத்சத். சாந்தி சாந்தி சாந்தி. நன்றி. தேங்க்யூ வெரி மச். God bless you.
हरि ओम नमो नारायणाय नमः। वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देवा सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। एकदन्ताय विद्महे वक्रतुण्डाय धीमहि तन्नो दन्ति प्रचोदयात्. धनन्तरं कल्वितरं गुरुणालं तलपरियामनन्तरं தெய்வவடிவம் தரும் நெஞ்சில் பஞ்சமில்லா எண்ணம் தரும் கணம் தரும் பூங்குழலால் அபிராமி கடை கண்களே. ஜெய் பாரத் மாதா கி ஜெய்.
வணக்கம், நமஸ்தே, நமஸ்காரம். முதலில் தென்னாப்பிரிக்காவில் வாழும் இந்தியர்கள் அனைவர் சார்பாக திரு அண்ணாமலை அண்ணா அவர்களை தென்னாப்பிரிக்காவிற்கு வருகிறவர்கள் வரவேற்று வரும் நாடாளுமன்ற தேர்தல் 24 நமக்கே வெற்றி என்ற நற்செய்தியுடன் இருக்க வேண்டும் என்று ஒரு பிரார்த்தனை செய்கிறோம். ஆத்தாலை எங்கள் அபிராமி வல்லியை அண்டமெல்லாம் பூத்தாலை மாதுளம் பூநிறத்தாலை புவியடங்க காத்தாலை அங்கடி பாசாம் குசமும் கரும்பு வில்லும் சேர்த்தாலை முக்கண்ணியை தொழுவார்க்கு ஒரு தீங்கு நிலையே. முக்கண்ணியை தொழுவார்க்கு ஒரு தீங்கு நிலையே. யாதேவி சர்வபூதேஷு லக்ஷ்மி ரூபேண நமஸ்திதா. நமஸ்தஸ்தை 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 நமோ நமः. जय आदिपराशक्ति की जय. माउंट एजकोम्ब मारियम्मा मूर्ति की जय. ओम शांति शांति शांति. और भी कैसे थैंक यू.
To all our dignitaries and guests, our next item is an invocation dance by the Shiksha Dance Institute.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to the Shiksha Dance Institute. It gives me great honor to call upon the chairman of the Shri Mariamman Temple, Shri Shri, to do the official welcome.
Vanakkam, Namaste, Namaskaram, good evening ladies and gentlemen. It is good to have you here in Mount Edgecombe on a cold and rainy night. Those of us that live in Devon are not used to this kind of weather. Diwan Narumagam from Port Elizabeth may be used to that kind of weather. So on behalf of the Shri Mariamman Temple Society, the Indasa Foundation, we'd like to welcome Shri Annamalai, the leader of the BJP in Tamil Nadu, and Srimati Thelma J. David, the Consul General, based in Durban. So it's good to have you here, both of you. I'm not one too much for protocols, so if I don't afford you the necessary respect, pardon me. So I serve as the chairperson of the Shri Mariamman Temple in Edgecombe. On a light note, those of you who want to say Shri Mariamman Temple and politics go hand in glove, today is the day to write about that. It is indeed a political meeting today. We meet a rising politician from India, and so you can write widely about it, and I know social media will cover this hugely. But to say that politics and religion don't mix, it's not right, it's not fair, it's not correct. Everything that happens in our lives, we require the blessings of our Lord and Mother Mariamman. Everything that happens outside of our religion, we need our politicians and our government to make sure that they do the right thing and they are able to lead us correctly. I almost think that the air that we breathe, you'll be charging us for it one day. Because you charge us for the water, you charge us for everything. But the air that we breathe, the good Lord has provided, one day I think we're going to pay for it. So we want good, honest politicians who lead us. So, Shri Annamalai, I've seen so many videos of you recently, debating with other politicians from South India and so on. But I get the opportunity of meeting our Consul General. I'm hoping that we can forge a relationship. But in our midst today, at a temple that was built in 1862, that's when we arrived here. Our parents came here in 1860, first to compensation in Tonga and to reunion in Isipingo. Our forebears arrived in Edgecombe in 1862, 2 years after the first batch. Make no mistake, whatever fancy term that the English used to con us into coming here, we came here as slaves. So today when we are called fat cats, we'd have to remind them about our history. How we landed here, the atrocities that we faced are criminal in nature. The atrocities that we faced here. However, the tenacity of our parents, their perseverance, their blood, sweat and tears allowed us to progress. At the forefront of that blood, sweat and tears was education. Education, education. We realized the only way to conquer the white bosses in this country, particularly in KwaZulu-Natal, well at that time it was a colony of Port Natal, was to learn the English language, because many of us spoke Tamil, and to be able to master the English language, so that we could beat the white man using his language, and beat him with our sheer tenacity and ability and skills. But along the way, ladies and gentlemen, along the way, many of our brothers and sisters formed relationships with our African brothers and sisters. Not a perfect model, but we did. I met a gentleman from the Freedom Park that records the history of our struggle in Africa that dates over 300 years. And that general, Masondo, told me that when he was in Robben Island as a political prisoner, there were more political prisoners from within the Indian community than the African per capita. Understand that. There were more Indian political prisoners in Robben Island than our African brothers per capita. We only number 1.5 million in this country today. Perhaps a very small community, but we are able to punch way above our weight in every sphere of life. And then recently, we have good politicians in our country. I like my president. I like the deputy president. I like the Secretary General of the African National Congress. What I have a problem with is being downgraded to what I consider second-class citizenship. When you employ and you use affirmative action and employment equity on the basis of race, you downgrade us to second-class citizens. No matter how smart you may term the words, how smart you may term the policy, but that is what you downgrade us to. So when I welcome our esteemed guests, we live in a beautiful country. We are very wealthy, mineral-wise, people-wise. We just need to get our act together. I will never say a bad word about this country. But when we need to tell the truth so that we face it head on, we must do so in a way that says we need cooperation from different partners in our society. We can't be called fat cats simply because we excel at education. Every single one of you who are parents sitting here or grandparents know you tell your children go and be the best that you can become. And the sky is the limit. Almost every single one of you say that. How do you say to a child, I'm sorry, you are from within the Indian community. Remember, I'm an African by birth. My ID says so. I am black because the constitution of our country says I'm black. So I'm a black African. When you continuously call me Indian, you disenfranchise me. You take away what should be my nationality and you put it in the application form as a race. I am not complaining to our esteemed guests. I am saying you and I, all of us seated here today, should use a forum called Hindu Unity and fight for it, because this is our home. We are Hindus, and that's our home. We are from the Indian community, and we have a proud heritage. We should use our Indian community to be able to challenge that. I know Pranit Singh is here from the Hindu Unity Forum. I know Tongat has a Hindu Unity Forum. Comrade Governor, right? All of us are working in silos. So I want to use this opportunity, Program Director, is to very briefly educate our esteemed guests so that once we smile, once we keep our traditions, customs, practice alive, and that we are from the Indian heritage. Know full well I'm an African. I'm born in the continent of Africa. Know full well the constitution that was signed in 1996 says categorically I'm black. How then, when our children get masters and doctorates, we can't get a job in this country because they say we are Indian, based on our race. But a guy from Kenya or Nigeria or any other African country can come in on the basis that he's African and he's black. But products of South Africa, the government spent money on educating us and then doesn't give us the job, but will give a guy from another country the job. We can come to India, train as a doctor. I think your education system is par excellence. We can't beat or match your education system for now. We have to strive to reach your education levels. After we qualify in India, we are not allowed to practice in South Africa. How crazy is that? But we are partners in BRICS. Something is wrong with that partnership. There's a very strong bond between India and South Africa. India was the first country that took up the cudgels on behalf of the disenfranchised in this country. India was the first country in the United Nations to challenge the apartheid laws against us. And then the community that came from India is the first ones to be marginalized. We are not alone. The colors and the whites say the same. You've heard it. So, I want you to know that I'm not complaining to you. It'll be wrong. I want to use this opportunity to complain to my community and say to us, all of us, because you are the leaders in our society. If you sit back and say, let him do the job, or let the other person pick up the cudgels on our behalf, we won't get anywhere as a community. And our children will be the losers. We are the beneficiaries of our parents' hard work, tenacity, blood, sweat, slavery. We got here. So when we want to meet a leader from the ruling party in India, we must learn some lessons. Perhaps you will share that with us. The Consul General, I know you won't get involved in the local politics of the country. That's not your domain. But understand, we need to be able to talk to somebody. So in our midst, ladies and gentlemen, I have with me a very good friend, Flex Padiachi from SJPJ, fighting for the rights of the Tamil people in Sri Lanka. That is genocide. What took place in Sri Lanka is genocide. What took place in Phoenix in 2021 is not genocide. As an Indian community, we are a soft target, so you blame your faults on us. 33 people died, 60 people were arrested and imprisoned for 6 months without bail. Mr. Governor will tell you that was only available back in the day before 1994, not after 1994. 6 months without bail. 6 people of Indian origin were also murdered. Nobody says a word about it. Why am I reminding you at this function today? I should show more respect to our guests from overseas. How about saying this? Catch a wake up. You are so fast asleep and you are so silent. It hurts. And then those of us that speak, when you go to the chat sites and you go to the social media, there's huge arguments taking place there without a stitch of work being done practically. That's all we do. So ladies and gentlemen, because I'm here on stage and because I chair the Shri Mariamman temple, let me say, all we do is talk, talk, talk. No action. Arise. There's a young man here who was rising in India, and politics in that country is not easy. There's a young lady here, I'm allowed to say that one, who was the Consul General. How many female foreign diplomats from within the Indian community that we have? None. From within the Indo-Rights, or even Christian for that matter. But we have 8 ambassadors from South Africa who come from the Muslim community, which is the tiniest of the Indian community in South Africa. What happened, my brothers and sisters? I can talk in colloquial English as well, right? This word came from Tonga. What happened, bro? You know the what happened Keegan story? So what happened? We are fast asleep and we don't want to tackle issues head on. Because politically, we are marginalized like no other community. We are, politically. Our schools are being run down. That's another subject altogether. So, ladies and gentlemen, whilst we welcome a rising star in the political scene of India, I was told, Mr. Annamalai,
2034 he's the train from India.
then you have our blessings from the Mariamman temple. But let that be a blessing and not the other way around, because he needs to go safely back to India after the big summit. So let me introduce, I said to you we have the Sri Lankan delegation, all the people in our country that are fighting that issue. But I also want to introduce a gentleman called Kubi Govindasamy, who is the highest ranking official in the South African Football Association. Just one person from within our community that serves on SAFA. And here's my challenge to you, Mr. Annamalai, and to the Consul General. He is in charge of indoor football. We want to play a game, South Africa versus India, at an indoor stadium. We'll raise our money from this side. If you can send the team from India, it would be a great boost for indoor football in South Africa. I'm very interested in that game, having played it many, many years ago. Now my knees and ankles are telling me otherwise. However, we get to see the rainbow. That's our country. You see Africans, Indians, colors, and whites playing that game. In the PSL, they get paid so much of money they can't score against Malawi and Botswana and what have you. What a crime shame. They're driving Ferraris in South Africa. Those fellows are riding on a Volkswagen. They beat us. So, having said that, I would like India to genuinely meet with you and see if we can arrange that game. That game will give us a boost, a shot in the arm. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Program Director, for allowing me access in terms of time. But I know we have a rising star here, and we want to use that opportunity maximally. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, our next item is a message from Shri Mohan Raj Muthusamy. He is also born in the same village as the honorable member of the BJP. So he is a member of the expat community and he would like to make some remarks. Mr. Mohan.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of our Tamil community and Indian Association of South Africa, we warmly welcome Mr. K. Annamalai, former IPS officer, President of BJP Tamil Nadu, and Dr. Thelema, Consul General of India, Durban. We are grateful for their presence today. Annamalai, we deeply appreciate the time you've taken to meet with our people. I believe Modi ji made a brilliant decision by appointing our youngster as a president of BJP Tamil Nadu. Just as Modi ji is an emblematic brand name for India, Annamalai ji is the iconic brand name for my state. I had the honor of meeting him today in Durban, but I'm very proud to know he comes from my hometown. He makes me impressive impact wherever he goes, which leads to positive change. I greatly admire his clarity and skill in presenting information with supporting data. It's very impressive how he can effortlessly record all the details and statistics from memory. He is a valuable asset to our Tamil people, fearlessly speaks out against any wrongdoing in our political circle. He is truly one of the best things to happen to Tamil Nadu. On July 28th, Annamalai ji planned for a 6-month foot march throughout Tamil Nadu. He is going to visit 235 villages and meet with the locals to raise the political awareness among the people. On behalf of our community, I'm confident that march should be very successful. I don't want to take more time. I don't want to make you wait more to hear the Annamalai ji speak. So let's give a big applause to welcome Mr. Annamalai ji, the former IPS officer and current president of BJP Tamil Nadu. Thank you.
Thank you, Shri Mohan Ji. I would like to call upon Professor Anand Singh. Professor Anand Singh is a great fan of Shri Annamalai. He is also a professor of anthropology. Although he has finished his fixed term, but he is still doing research in anthropology. But more important, the last few years, he's been spending time understanding the challenges we face in the Indian diaspora as an anthropologist and also as a Hindu academic. He has recently written a book, After All Isms, Hindutva is the Solution. His book hasn't been released officially yet, but we would like to wish him well on this auspicious occasion in the presence of Shri Annamalai to do what I call a pre-launch so that you get the blessings of the divine in this Mandir temple. So I'd call upon Professor Anand Singh to give us his message. Thank you.
Vanakkam, namaskaram, and namaste to all of you. Thank you very much for giving me this privilege to talk in front of somebody who piqued my interest when I watched him on YouTube about a year ago. And I asked a few Indian friends from India about who is Annamalai, what do they know about him, and am I actually hearing right in terms of the positions that he is taking? And to my very pleasant surprise, he seemed to have been growing in such popularity that I was able to understand and appreciate the kinds of things that he was addressing and the growing popularity that he is experiencing, not just in Tamil Nadu, but all over India. Now, without any intention of trying to overplay the role of a genuine guest that we have here, I found a lot of things that Annamalai has been saying publicly and over YouTube and the discussions that he has had tremendously inspiring. The one very important thing that I think he stands out with is the kind of confrontations that he has to face in a very hostile political environment in Tamil Nadu. Now, we know that for the past few decades, so-called communists in Tamil Nadu have prevailed. Then we have the Dravidians who are actually secessionists who want to break away from India. And here we actually have a young man who, with a very secure government job at one stage, decided that his interests and his passions could be better served outside of a secure government employment. Well, thank goodness that Annamalai, I think, is married, so he's out of the marriage market now. And I believe that anybody in India who gets a government job and who passes the IPS examinations, proposals come for them one after the other. So he's probably now safe from all of that. But the very important thing is that he's taken a huge risk. And the feedback that many people are actually getting is that both the so-called communists from Tamil Nadu and the so-called secessionists are beginning to show themselves up against someone who's standing by principle. And we all know one thing, that Annamalai belongs to a party that is being led by a man that history has never seen rise to the position that he did without a huge bank account, without huge investments in property, without a woman by his side as a wife, children whose interests are being seen to before everyone else's, and perhaps a harem here and there where he could run away and have weekends with. No leader in the history of humankind has ever been able to lead a nation of this magnitude and deliver on most of whatever he has actually promised, to a point of actually gathering support in a way that is now beginning not only to change India, but also to change the world. Modi ji is one of those people who has this attraction towards the Indian diaspora. And the diaspora, in many ways, will simply have to gravitate towards their cultural homeland, their ancestral homeland, for one simple reason. Now, Silan has actually covered a fair amount. He's made a very big point with respect to the Indian community being fat cats. But you know, the Indian community, with all due respect to Silan, is that not everybody is actually fat cat in our community. The majority of Indians continue to remain working class, underclass, and extremely marginalized. More than 50% of people of Indian origin in this country have been relegated to townships with the meekest of services during apartheid. And it's become even worse during the post-apartheid era. The important thing is that people in this country continue to pay the price for being of Indian origin, largely because there are competencies that are virtually unmatched in this country, especially in education and professionalism. But we have to continue to endure, because South Africa, sadly, is about the only country in the world that actually practices affirmative action for the majority of people. Affirmative action applies to the favor of minorities wherever they are. But in South Africa, it applies to the majority. It's something that we need to address, but whether we will actually get a hearing or not is impossible, perhaps in the near future as well. Because of this marginalization, these continuous attacks that we have to face as a minority, not just a minority, but an Indian minority, it is inevitable that people are going to continue to want to associate with their ancestral homeland. But South African Indians are not the only community that in any way is isolated and discriminated against the majority of population wherever they are. Those of us who follow the diasporic distribution in the world and what they are subjected to, the attacks by Muslims in Leicester, in Canada, in Leicester in the United Kingdom, in several cities in Canada, especially by the Khalistanis. Although my surname is Singh, I am not a Khalistani and I'm not Sikh. And I don't favor them at all. The same situation is actually happening in the United States. It's also happening here in South Africa. Pradeep Ramlal just mentioned that I wrote a book. It was actually brought about as a result of confrontation that I had to face telephonically with somebody who accused me of wanting to attend the meeting that was being monitored and set up by the BJP from India and trying to create a BJP cell here in Durban and then setting up an RSS cell as well in Durban. And then I was actually going to be one of those people who was going to lead these cells. I have no interest in joining the BJP. I have no interest in joining the RSS. But I do actually appreciate the kinds of work that they are doing. And because I have spoken out in many occasions, asking people to do their reading and to look at things factually, I've been singled out, like many other people of Indian origin here, for the simple reason that you dare to stand up and talk about them positively. So the issue here is also about how we as people of Indian origin are being marginalized and being singled out in many ways for whatever we stand. So whether it is in Canada, the USA, the UK, South Africa, or any other part of the world, people of Indian origin will have to, in many ways, unfortunately, sometimes stand clandestinely, stand communally, because it's the only way we'll be able to survive. And I am not promoting communalism. I am simply saying that we have to face reality. We are absolutely proud that in many things that the BJP is doing, it's being done in the name of the universalisms that are befitting and consistent with Sanatana Dharma. And that is the universalisms that are all embracing. I hope the CG does not mind me saying that she is the second person in a row of a Christian background who's actually taken this role as CG. Her predecessor was also a Christian background. I will be attending an anthropology conference in India in 2 weeks' time. That conference was actually taken away by an international elite of anthropologists from the Indians. And the people who actually stood together to lead that conference in India were actually people of a Christian background. They didn't put their religion first, they put nationality first. They put their nationalism first. And yet you continue to hear in the media, and you continue to hear everywhere else, that the BJP is fascist. And that you continue to hear that in fact we need to drive them out of power. With that kind of accusation, I decided at the beginning of COVID that I will actually write a book against the attacks, that not just what India is facing, but what we as people of Indian origin are facing. And what actually transpired in the course of my research was that many of these major ideologies are beginning to erode in their influence in the world. So it is no surprise, for instance, that Modi ji went and spoke to the US Congress. It is no surprise that his fame throughout the world is actually rising to a point where it is making people feel rather uncomfortable. But it is also giving the Indian diaspora good reason, not only to continue to link up with their ancestral homeland, but also to be able to learn and relearn what we have lost over these years. And to that extent, I wish Annamalai well, I wish him all the best, and I hope that at some point, when the one young lady in the crowd in one of the YouTubes that I've seen recently, sir, aren't you actually going to strive towards becoming Prime Minister, because I'd like to see you there? And Annamalai's response, I'm sure you'll remember that, he gave one of the most mature and beautiful answers. And that is, I will stand by the party and where they actually take me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Annamalai. I think you spoke from your heart as an academic. Our next item will be a dance, and thereafter I will introduce our guest of honor. So, dance item, please. Thank you to the three dancers. Dear guests, I would like to introduce our honorable dignitary member of the Bharatiya Janata Party, and he has a long CV, very long one, but I will compound it with a message that I have prepared, and thereafter we will have a special prayer from the gurus, and also there will be some bouquets. So let me finish my bit on the introduction of our distinguished guest. It is indeed an honor and privilege to stand before you to welcome and introduce Shri Annamalai ji, an extraordinary man who has left an indelible mark in the hearts and minds of fellow South African Indians. He is a true young visionary, a relentless champion of justice, and a beacon of hope for countless lives in India, as well as the diaspora. Born on the 4th of June 1984 in an agricultural family in a humble village called Karur, Mr. Annamalai's life is a testament to the power of determination and perseverance. From an early age, he demonstrated an insatiable curiosity and an unyielding spirit to rise above adversity. This thirst for knowledge led him to excel academically, and he earned degrees in mechanical engineering and a master's in business administration from two prestigious institutions, the PSG College of Technology in Coimbatore and the Indian Institute of Management in Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh. In 2011, he was a batch topper in the UPSC civil service examinations, becoming a force to be reckoned with his knowledge of legal and police administration. Shri Annamalai is guided by a deep sense of duty to serve people, the nation and the world. His unwavering commitment to upholding justice and protecting the rights of the marginalized is evident in every case he fought and championed. As an advocate for social reform, he fearlessly took on issues that others dared not to approach, ensuring that the voiceless found a powerful advocate in him. In addition to his exemplary career, Shri Annamalai ji's dedication to public service is further showcased when he entered the realms of politics. Recognizing the potential to effect a profound change from within the system, he took on the mantle of leadership with humility and integrity. His tenure as a political leader is characterized by transparency, honesty, and an unyielding commitment to the welfare of the constituents. He is often referred to as Singam Anna. Singam means lion. He quit the post of Deputy Commissioner of Police in South Bangalore in 2019 to engage himself in social service. Soon after his resignation as an IPS officer, and in a media conference he stated that he was a natural fit for the Bharatiya Janata Party. He felt that the Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Shri Narendra Ji Modi, inspired him most, and that he was a true leader. Shri Annamalai ji can speak fluently in Hindi, in Tamil, Kannada, and some other languages. On the 25th of August 2020, he joined the BJP, and he later became the president of the Tamil Nadu state BJP unit. But I want to refer to what Shri Shri said. You cannot separate politics from religion. Many of you don't know, Shri Annamalai ji is a follower and a devotee of the Ramakrishna Math, which is a prestigious institution, and he follows the great Swami Gautamananda ji Maharaj, who has come to South Africa also. The Shri Narendra Modi government has completed 9 years in office in 2 successive terms on the 30th of May. The Bharatiya Janata Party has planned a month-long mass reach-out of programs across the country. Who thought that this messenger of Modi will come to South Africa? It is hoped that Shri Annamalai ji will share some of his successes on behalf of the Bharatiya Janata Party, the ruling party of India, tonight. Sir, recently we had the honor to meet the External Affairs Minister, Honorable Dr. S. Jaishankar in Cape Town. And tonight we are privileged to have you in our midst. I would like to call upon the Pandits, the priests. They would like to do a special prayer for you and put a shawl around you, and then there's a Governor family that would present bouquets before you speak, sir. Please come forward.
जय भारत माता की जय, भारत माता की जय।
அன்பார்ந்த பெரியவர்களே, தாய்மார்களே, ladies and gentlemen, friends, brothers and sisters, it's a great privilege to be here standing in front of you in this very wonderful soil which has got the largest number of Indian diaspora outside India. As I stand here, I stand with a lot of humility. I stand with a sense of deep devotion. Exactly to this day, 59,416 days before. Exactly to this day, 59,416 days before. 16th November 1860, a ship sailed from Madras with 342 people inside that ship. Passenger number 1 with the name called Devara, who sailed in the ship along with 341 people, not knowing exactly sure what is going to happen in a very distant foreign land. Thousands of miles away, crossing very deep, dark seas, coming here, marked as very cruelly as an indentured labor. And his serial number in South Africa, preserved in the pages of history, Mr. Devaram is indentured labor number 1, and he was put to work in a diamond mine here. 10 days later, a second ship sailed from Calcutta. And what started in 1860, it went on till 1911, 284 ships, carrying a total of 1,58,600 odd indentured laborers. Now 163 years later, 59,416 days later, I stand with a sense of history, with a sense of deep devotion in this very beautiful soil that has brought so many Indians from different parts of our country. The first ship predominantly carrying people from Madras, Chengalpattu, Nellore, Ganjam, Mysore, Visakhapatnam, Trichy, Hyderabad. And the second ship from Calcutta carrying people from Awadh region and Bihar and parts of the northern part of India. And when the eminent guest in this august audience, who happens to be the president of this temple also, Seelan Acharyanna was speaking, he was mentioning about the problems that is being faced now. I don't think in any part of the world, any community must have come here as indentured labor 163 years later, can proudly stand in the soil and say, education has taken them to a different level and they have made a good life for themselves. 5, 6 generations later, the children are doing well. And the children are very fortunate in this room because you have 2 motherland. I have only 1 motherland. So you have 2 motherland. Very proudly, the people in this room have 2 motherland. And you are deeply devoted to this very beautiful country, South Africa, which has given you a life and which has given a lot of meaning to you as a person. At the same time, the umbilical cord connection with India cannot be severed, even if you like. Nobody can cut out that umbilical cord. That is why you are very privileged to sit in this room, having 2 beautiful motherlands now. Yesterday I was in Johannesburg, same time, addressing our Indian community there. And they were playing 2 national anthems. The first national anthem being the South African national anthem. I could see a lot of tears in people's eyes. And the second national anthem immediately was our Indian national anthem. Again I could see tears with the same eyes that was giving tears a few minutes back. So that is the kind of destiny and the sense of history you all carry here. Of course, problems are there, problems are inevitable in society. Some problems get solved, some problems take time to get solved. But it's very important that those problems get addressed over a point of time. Just to put a sense of perspective, the love that India has for you as we speak now, the Consular General Dr. Thelma J. David, Madam, is sitting in the stage as we speak now. As we speak now, in Durban, there are 2 Indian ministers in Durban today night. There is Madam Meenakshi Lekhi, who is in Durban today. And there is our minister, Nishant Pramanik Ji, who is also in Durban today. As we speak now, the ruling Indian party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, the representatives, 4 of us are in Durban and Johannesburg today. To put it in perspective, it shows the kind of love and the kind of importance India has given to South Africa, to our diaspora who is here. I don't think in any point of time you will have 2 ministers in one night staying in Durban doing their duty. You might not have had some representative from India's ruling party, BJP, here also at the same time. So that is the assurance I am going to give it to Seelanji, who is in this beautiful stage, that South Africa being a very, very important area of interest for our country, and Indian diaspora being a very important area of interest for our country, because Modi ji believes the diaspora is the first line of defense for our country now. You are staying millions of miles away in different parts of the world, and you act as the first line of defense for our country. I'll subsequently explain why I made this particular statement. And Jaishankar ji also keep mentioning about the catalyst role that the Indian diaspora is playing across the whole world. So very happy, sir, that you were able to call me to this very beautiful Mariamman temple. The history goes back to 1862, recorded history. A group of our ancestors who came here, God bless their soul now, were able to keep Mariamma here, Lord Ganapati here, were able to bring their home, a sense of their home here. They have left their home, but they are able to bring a sense of their home, sense of their practice, sense of their culture here. That is why we see the Bharatanatyam dance. That is why we see the dance with the very beautiful young ladies who are able to perform. The sense of history is preserved even after 163 years. To that thought, I was making a remark to you, how the steps of Bharatanatyam is pitch perfect. If I go to the land of Bharatanatyam in our country, the best teachers, what they teach, you are able to teach the same thing to a kid here, who is able to have that same Navarasa when she is able to play the same Bharatanatyam. The sense of history is so well preserved. And also the kind of dance the beautiful young ladies were able to put out today. So I feel very happy that 163 years later, there is nothing that separates India from the Indian diaspora here. Everything is same, food is same, culture is same, the language is same. And maybe we are meeting for the first time, but it looks as if we are meeting for the last 6 months or so. We are able to connect heart to heart, we are able to connect very deeply. And the other gentleman on the stage, my brother Mohan Rajan was able to have some very kind words for me. I'm not very sure I deserve all of it. I'm pretty sure I don't deserve. And Professor Anand Singh ji was able to give a sense of history and what is happening. Thank you so much for the kind words, sir. And Pradeep Ramlal ji, who pushed me to board a flight from Johannesburg, come in the middle of the night, address you. Again, take a morning flight, go to Johannesburg, catch a flight, go fly to Qatar, and catch a flight 1 hour later, flight to Delhi. So this trip was very important for me because I want to come to Durban, see you, even for a night, and pay my respects to you, and give you a sense of confidence that millions of miles away, we are with you. Come what may, we will be with you in the times to come also. That is why my trip here to Durban is very important for me. And Dr. Selvan Nayakar, who is chairperson of this temple trust, who is waiting to give the vote of thanks, and Mr. Prakashan Padiyarch, who is playing a very prominent voice in South Africa for our Sri Lankan Tamil friends, for all the sufferings they have gone through. And most importantly, the guests for this evening come from different parts of India. You all do very important things in Durban in South Africa, but still you have chosen to give your time on an evening with just a 24-hour notice. You all have chosen to come here. And my Tamil friends who are here, Kannada friends who are here, Andhra friends who are here, UP friends who are here, Gujarat friends who are here, West Bengal friends who are here, from all different states of India. And I connect to you as a Bharati, I connect to you as an Indian today. Thank you so much for making time and able to come in. What to speak, sir? And yes, there are issues, no doubt. That is why BJP has sent out a delegation here to the BRICS Political Parties Plus Summit that is being hosted by the African National Congress. Many of the things that you have spoken were discussed at length for the last 3 days. How to take this partnership to the next level, and how to strengthen and deepen this partnership further with the summit that is coming up in August with our Prime Minister Modi ji coming here. And of course, he will give you the government perspective of what Indian government is going to do. So I leave it at that point of time. And there is also a government functionary, madam, who is sitting in the stage. And I can only assure you many of the things that you've spoken. I'm a messenger. I'm going to carry it back home. I'm going to meet the very important people sitting in our government, including our External Affairs Minister Jaishankar ji, and my party president Nadu ji, and the ministers concerned, and even to our Prime Minister, very Honorable Narendra Modi ji. And I'm just a carrier, and 100% I'm going to carry. And many of the issues that he's spoken are very serious, and there is no doubt about that. But there is a way to solve it. There is a democratic process to solve it. I'm very sure it will get solved. Now, 163 years later, when our forefathers left our land, it was a very different India. 1859, we have seen what has happened. The first war of Indian independence happened. 1860, a very severe penal code came to our country. The same Thomas Babington Macaulay wrote 2 different things. He wrote the Indian education system. He also wrote the Indian penal code there. So maybe your forefathers at one point of time, they didn't see a good future for themselves in India. They felt it is better to escape the oppressive regime of the British India there, maybe travel to a foreign land, make a life for themselves, settle here, maybe in a foreign land, and create opportunities for themselves. Maybe they felt that is denied for them in our country. And now, 163 years later, when I come as a messenger from India, from your motherland, and as a representative of Mr. Modi ji, when you look at India now, it's a very different India. And we have traveled so much in the last decade or so, and the arc that India has achieved, the trajectory that we have achieved is unbelievable. I don't think any democratic nation, I'm just putting in quotation the word called democratic, I don't think any democratic nation has achieved what our country has achieved in the last 10 years. I'm going to put some numbers in perspective. Just to inform you, the kind of trajectory and the growth that India is attaining now and India is going to attain in the next 25 years. We are a country of 142 crore people. And population is always a blessing, sometimes it is always a curse, depending on the way we see it. 1974, 75, 76, we saw population as a curse. We never thought a country having so much population, how are we going to feed those people? How are we going to give food to those people? And there was this famous multi-system theory, which said when the population is growing in geometric progression, but unfortunately the food is growing only in arithmetic progression. That is why the government of India then resorted to family planning. We didn't want more children, and they encouraged people not to have children. And maybe that India, the old India, felt population is a curse. Now 2023, when I stand before you in Durban, very proudly we say India is the most populous country in the world. 142 crore people and counting. No country is reaching a place what India is doing now. China stopped at 141 crore. We are 142 now. And if you look at the Indian press now, the academicians or writers or the intellectuals, not even a single article which talks about, oh, we are the most populated country in the world. No article talks about how are we going to take care of these people. I haven't seen a single pessimistic article in India after it became the most populous nation in the world. Not even a single pessimist article. Because the whole of India is very optimistic. The whole of India believes 142 crore people plus little bit more counting in the years to come, it is going to strengthen the fabric of Bharat. It is going to power Bharat to a place where we always wanted to be. Angus Madison, the Oxford economist, in one of his recent study he mentioned the world powers that was in 1750. He predicted the share of the global GDP each of the world powers at that point of time, how much China had, how much India had, the global powers had. He said around 1700, India's share of the global GDP was 23%. 23% of the world GDP, literally 1/4 of the world GDP was controlled by India. Then 250 years later, the world GDP, if you look at how India is, it is less than 2%. Now where did we go wrong? 23% to 2% in about 250 years. Possibly that is the time many of your ancestors also set sail from India in 284 ships from 1860 to 1911. Where did we go wrong? Most of the countries, they were able to catch hold of the Industrial Revolution. They were able to have manufacturing capability. They started using India as a raw material market. Cotton started coming. The Manchester's mills were flourishing. Countries like America were able to boom. Most of the European nations were able to boom. But countries like India left behind because we were under the occupation of a colonial power. 1947, thanks to Mahatma Gandhi, who came as Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi in 1893 here to argue for a Gujarat trader in a South African court. Then you returned back to us, to your motherland in 1917 as a great Mahatma Gandhi. You returned him back. 1947, we got our independence. Now, if we look back at the last 75 years, we are doing something great thanks to the lot of hard work that happened, specifically in the last 10 years. Now, 2% we are slowly inching up. 2014, we were the 11th largest economy in the world. Now, 9 years later in 2023, we are the 5th largest economy in the world with a $3.6 trillion now. Now, no other country is able to gain about 6 steps, 6 places in a matter of 9 years. I don't think any country has done except China between 1980 to 2000. So now we are all poised to reach 3 in a matter of 6 years. We just have Germany above us and Japan above us. They're about $4.6 trillion, $4.9 trillion. We are going to catch up with them in a matter of 5 to 6 years, 2030, 2031. We'll be the third largest economy in the world. Then we have China above us, we are going to have US above us. Our Modi ji is very clear, very optimistic, very goal-oriented. Come 2047, which he calls the Amrit Kal, 2022 to 2047, he traces the 25 years as Amrit Kal. He says, come 2047, India is going to overtake everybody in numbers. And India will finally reach its destination, which was ours many centuries before. So this is the kind of optimistic period we have. Now, why does population matter? Population matters because you need people to work. We need people to lead us. We need people to take the Indian growth story. Now, in the world history, if you look at any country which had the largest number of labor force, it was China. At China's peak, 91 crore people were working in China. Out of their population, 91 crore people were between the age of 18 and 16, meaning they were working. Now, people say in 2033, 103 crore people of India, they are going to work. Meaning about 10 years from now, when we hit 2033, 103 crore people in India are going to work. No country had more than 100 crore people at one point of time between the ages of 18 to 60 working. Just imagine 103 crore people working at the same time in 2033. Doctors, engineers, architects, policemen, fire servicemen, whatever work they are doing. 100 crore people working at one shot at a point of time. Imagine this scale happening for 10 years continuously, 100 crore people working. That is the potential India is bringing to the global table. And I passionately speak in many forums. For all the global problems, many countries are looking at India for solution. Why? The future of the world is going to be more complex. It is not going to be a very simple world. Artificial intelligence coming, blockchain there, rise of technology, conflicts, that is, the global powers fighting among themselves. From a unipolar world to a multipolar world, the shift that is happening in geopolitics. So it's very complex, and we live in the land of Africa that is conflict prone. As we speak now, there is a fight between Morocco and Western Sahara, there is a fight between Rwanda and Chad. As we speak now, there is some kind of fight that is happening. The guns are not silenced in Africa because it's a complex country, a diverse country, and you have a lot of voices that needs to be accommodated in a democratic process. So everybody is looking at India because no country is more complex than us. I don't think any country in the world is more complex than India as a country. We have 22 official languages. 22 official languages. A very noisy democracy. More than 1,000 dialects. A state as diverse as Arunachal to as diverse as Tamil Nadu to Gujarat to Jammu and Kashmir. Food is different. Culture is different. Dressing sense is different. Dance forms are different. I don't think any country is more diverse than India. Now everybody is looking at India. How is India managing this diversity? That is why we say to many of the global problems now, it is going to be India that is going to give solution in the future. That is why India's role in BRICS is more important. 40% of the global population. So it could be South Africa, it could be Brazil, it could be Russia, it could be China, but they all look up to India because we are giving solutions to a lot of global problems. And more important than anything is, in the complex world that we are going to enter, which you have already entered, which we are seeing the complexity in South Africa. You mentioned about the race, you mentioned about the class, you mentioned about the affirmative action, you mentioned about the role of political parties, especially the shift post-apartheid after 1994. And I don't think South Africa is more complex than India. That is why South Africa is also looking at India to give a lot of solutions to their own problems here. And we have very beautiful action. We have affirmative action in our country, which we are doing it from 1950. And we lift millions out of poverty. In fact, crores of people out of poverty, which we are doing in a very democratic way. And a democracy gives voices to a lot of people, from the northeast to Kashmir to Tamil Nadu to everywhere. We solve India's problem through democracy. 2014, if you look at India, we had the Naxalism issue from where they call the Tirupati to the Kathmandu corridor. You had the Naxal starting in Nepal, Kathmandu, which was present in all the states. If you draw a straight line from Nepal, Kathmandu to Tirupati and Andhra, every single state was Naxal prone. They had some kind of issue. As we speak now, it has shrunk to a small area in the central part of India, that too a couple of districts in one state. In about 9 years through democracy, we were able to solve the Naxal problem. If you look at the Northeast from 1947 to 2023, if you look at the arc of history, we had problems, we had secession tendencies, we had people fighting, we had peace talks happening, we had tribal groups fighting among themselves for identity. As we speak now, we have solved it. If you look at Jammu and Kashmir, which was conflict prone, 2022 is the most safest period in Jammu and Kashmir's history because 1,88 lakh people not belonging to Jammu and Kashmir visited Jammu and Kashmir as a tourist. First time in India for a state. For the state of Jammu and Kashmir, 1,88 lakh Indians not belonging to Jammu and Kashmir visited Jammu and Kashmir as a tourist. First time. First time in Jammu and Kashmir's history, we had the number of civilians and military people, army people getting killed less than 100. To put things in perspective, the number was in thousands in 1991, 1992, 1993. The number was a couple of hundreds in the early 2000s. Now, first time in India's history after the militancy started in 1989, 2022, we had the number of deaths, civilian deaths, and the number of armed forces deaths below 100 in a single year. So I can give you data after data to put things in perspective, how India is at its most peaceful time now. The problems of India we are solving democratically among us, from the Northeast to other parts of India. And more importantly, the India story is going global. If you look at the Fortune 500 companies now, the top 500 companies in the world, 71 company CEOs are Indian origin. Other day a friend was asking me, how is it possible? Is it because of good education? Have they gone to Harvard? Or the Stanford? Or they've gone to some of the best schools in the European nations? I said, no, it is not that. It is happening because the world powers and the world corporations, they know only an Indian can manage complexity. If you have Microsoft that is operating from China, that is operating in the US, that is operating in every single United Nations recognized country in the world, Microsoft is in every single nation. You have Google in every single nation. Why are both the CEOs have an Indian origin? Because their DNA manages complexity. They come from the land that is complex. And they manage complexity, they deliver results. That is why 71 CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, they are Indian origin. Now, this number will only go up. It will hit 100 in a matter of time. So that is why India's growth story is very important to the world. Western powers might see India in a very different lens, but India's growth story tells a very important story to the world powers. You have complexity. To manage it, look at us. And you have democracy, we have democracy, and our democracy is as old as it. 9th century, 10th century inscriptions in Tamil Nadu, the Chola time, in a place called Uttamareru, which talks about the governing councils, the election to the governing council, which talks about the Panchayat elections, which talks about the disqualification, which talks about corruption in Panchayat, how to solve. This is a 9th and 10th century inscription, Chola inscription in a place called Uttamareru in Tamil Nadu, which talks about democracy at its finest. And we are practicing democracy in a very complex country with millions of different voices and political parties managing that complexity and delivering results. In this age and time, growing at 7% is not a joke, sir. And you all know the growth stories of the European nations and the growth stories of countries, including South Africa. And growing at 7% is not a joke. In this age and time, India is able to grow at 7% continuously and climbing up because we have something that is functioning. The reason I am emphasizing more on this India's growth story because when I travel to the western part of the world, when I pick up a New York Times or a Washington Journal or a Time or a Sun or a Dawn, when I pick it up, I see a lot of Western friends are not very convinced about the India story. Oh, what about democracy? Oh, what about human rights? Oh, what about this? Oh, what about that? That is a general question I'm sure they must be asking you also. I'm very sure the gentlemen sitting in this August gathering. And this is the story they are. So I thought I'll focus more on this, my perspective on why the first line of defense, the diaspora, that you need to be the carriers of Indian story in the years to come. Because India is at an inflection point. The Western capitals, the New York and London was believing till now, they control the English-speaking crowd. So what they write in a paper, what they write in a magazine, that is how the English-speaking crowd should see other countries. So India is breaking it now. They felt India as a country, their foreign policy is dependent on how the major powers make a decision. That is why when Narendra Modi ji recently visited US, a lot of us were celebrating, a lot of us were happy, because an Indian Prime Minister getting a recognition in US, that too at a strategic level, a special friendship level, that to a person after the World War, the fourth world leader addressing the US Congress twice. I don't think it is a normal thing that happens, but our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji got the privilege. But more importantly, a lot of our Prime Ministers, very able Prime Ministers, were visiting US at different points of time. When Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru ji used to visit, it was more about a good US visit means Nehru ji had a successful US visit and the US was able to increase the aid for India. That will be the newspaper story, the headline story. So most of the successful visits were tied to how much aid US was able to increase for India. Madam Indira Gandhi visited, the same story. Lal Bahadur Shastri ji visited, the same story. But when Modi ji visited, the story of the global headlines is Modi ji visited, the partnership got strengthened to a different level. It is more strategic now. Modi ji is able to bring back technology out of our country, maybe a 4-on-4 technology from the General Electric or a Sky Guardian Reaper. Modi ji is able to bring back. Now the story is changing. Because all the world powers, they look up to India because they know if we don't partner with India, India will start solving problems of their own. Yesterday Johannesburg was mentioning, steam engines after they were invented, it took 81 years for a steam engine to reach India. 81 years. Electricity, after it powered a bulb in the western side, it took 78 years for electricity to enter India. Passenger cars, it took 22 years. Telephones, it took 5 to 7 years. Vaccine, that was for polio in 1955, it entered India 23 years later. Some vaccines entered India 50 years later. That is how India was treated. So all the problems of Western world get solved, taken care, 3 generations taken care, then the technology gets transferred to India, then a very important vaccine like polio, which comes 2 decades later, in the 2 decades millions of children have died, or incapacitated, or they had a lifelong disability. Now come 2020, for the very first time, India was able to show the global powers we are ahead of the curve. For the very first time during COVID, we were able to show the world we are ahead of the curve. We were able to say, look, we are 138, 39 crore population at that point of time. And we said, look, this time we are not going to wait for vaccines. We are not going to wait for 10 years. We are not going to wait for 5 years. And to get a vaccine from an American multinational company or a European multinational company, we are not going to surrender our foreign policy to you. For the very first time, we showed the world that we will make the vaccines in India, we will design in India, we will produce in India. And not only that, when the Western democracies were struggling to solve the last mile problem, I saw in US when I went there a couple of months back, where did they put vaccines? In the big stadiums, sports stadiums. People are standing in queues there. And a sports stadium, the tents were put out. And you have to go to the respective stadiums in the peak of COVID. And the government will give you vaccine. How did we solve the vaccine problem in India? It gets manufactured in Pune or Hyderabad. Indian Air Force plane lifts the vaccine. It lands in Chennai or Trivandrum or Hyderabad. It goes to a train. Temperature gets maintained at 6 degrees. And we take that vaccine right up to the primary health center in a village, which is probably from the madam's village called Takale, right next to where madam was born, in the deepest part of Kanyakumari. And it goes to a very deep village. And there is a lady in that village will just walk a couple of meters to a primary health center. Or the IMA in the primary health center, the midwife there will come to your home and give you a vaccine. No country in the world was able to solve that last minute problem, which we solved. Then the whole country, we brought it to a single digital platform. We had an app. We took everybody into the app. Certificate, when Americans were giving paper certificate, we were giving electronic certificate in a matter of seconds. And that got embedded to the passport. You have to travel somewhere, it is automatically embedded there. That level of sophistication. That is why when our Honorable Prime Minister was in Washington recently, one of the American top CEOs, Satya Nadella ji, made this statement. He said, look, we are at a very important time in India's history. There is an inflection point that is happening. What Modi ji is doing is thinking 20 years ahead. He is laying a digital pipeline for this country, which I think is going to be on par with the Industrial Revolution. This is coming from a CEO who runs companies across the world, who has got access to the best of data, the best of minds work for him. He has got the best PhDs thinking what is the world's next problem, how we can solve them. He makes the statement. The Prime Minister of this country is thinking 20 years ahead to solve the world problem. Using a digital pipeline is just not a joke. So first time we showed the world powers in 2018-19 that we can solve the world problem also. Now every country was doing vaccine hoarding they were doing, including the large powers. The United Nations has to say, please don't do vaccine hoarding. Whatever is your population, take a 50% extra and allow these multinational companies to give vaccine for others. A country like Australia had to wait a full 6 months to take a vaccine delivery from a multinational because that multinational, which was headquartered in a Western power, was blocked by the country. They said all the vaccines to me for this many months, then you give. A country like Australia had to wait 6 months to access vaccine from a Western power. What did we do? We sent 25 crore vaccine to 98 countries even before our population fully had access to vaccine. Vaccines were going to Nepal, vaccines were going to Maldives, vaccines were going to Caribbean, vaccines were going to every single country, including Papua New Guinea. Because we said, look, we will grow the Indian way. We need not copy any Western democracy or a Western country to grow like 7%. We will grow the Vasudeva Kudumbagam way. When we grow, we take everybody along. We don't create fault lines in the world growth thing. We saw. Very first time India was able to send vaccines 25 crore doses across the world to 98 countries. That is why when our Prime Minister recently visited Papua New Guinea, he arrived late. He finished his meeting in Japan. He was able to go there 7:30 p.m. late. The Prime Minister of his country is waiting. And not only is waiting, could be a ceremonial break in protocol, it's okay. But he wanted to touch the Prime Minister's feet. And he wanted to touch him. Prime Minister was not allowing him to touch. Prime Minister was trying to resist him from touching his feet. But next day, what Mr. James Marape, the head of administration in Papua New Guinea, next day he was making a statement. He said, look, our country is stuck near a global power. We are near China. And you imagine a small country and how the global powers behave with a small country. And India's millions of thousands of miles away for us. And here this country thinks about us. It sends COVID vaccine to our country with a message, a humble gift from the people of India to Papua New Guinea. We receive it, we do it. I don't feel there is any shame in falling at this Prime Minister's feet because he deserves. He did it. So that is the kind of global goodwill India is generating in all the small countries around the world. When these countries were just used as a pawn for one vote in the United Nations General Assembly. Because every country has one vote. That's how the global powers were used. But India is different. That is why I mentioned at the start that India is seen as the country that is going to give solution to a lot of global problems. Not only that, everywhere we see the people G20 presidency, our country is having. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, the presidency is with India. Now in the G20 presidency, for the very first time in India, we see G20 meetings. The summit will happen in New Delhi in September. But the whole year, our Prime Minister has taken the G20 meetings, 192 meetings across India. First time we have seen the Western ambassadors coming to Chennai, coming to Tanjavur, coming to Coimbatore, coming to Thiruvananthapuram, going to Mysore. So all these small cities are hosting a G20 meeting. It could be a youth meeting, it could be a sports meeting. We see everybody travel. Till now the G20 meetings will be in political character. When China conducted G20 meeting in the peak of COVID, they emptied a city of 5 million. They emptied a city of 5 million, China hosted G20. The way we host G20, ambassadors, they go to all parts of India, they see India for what it is. And sitting in an AC room and making a comment about our country's democracy or our country's growth. For the very first time, G20 plus all the invited countries, more than 20, 30 countries, they come. I have seen ambassadors landing in Mahabalipuram, going and seeing the beautiful Pallava dynasty's shore temple. I have seen ambassadors in Coimbatore. I have seen ambassadors in Tanjavur. They go, they take photo, they see, okay, what is this? So this is the third thing that is going to come out now. Mostly after the G20, now we are telling the world, look, we are not lecturing or giving education to all. That's how most countries do. We are telling very humbly, we have solutions to global problem. First, we say, look, our democracy is very deep. When you travel across our country, you understand how this complex country functions. That is the first lesson that probably you can take very humbly we are giving. Second, everywhere they go, it is a local millet they have a food. India is the capital of millets, which can solve most of the world's problem, including hunger, including obesity, including all the lifestyle disease the Western countries have. So everywhere it is the International Year of Millet, they see millet. Everywhere they see yoga, everywhere they see Ayurveda, and every product that is used is a Make in India product in the G20. And a gift that is also given to them is a local handicraft product that is made in that part of the world, that part of our country. Now all these things are silently happening inside our country. But still, when I see outside, I keep seeing a couple of indices. They say, oh, democracy is coming down in India. So when I see this index, I keep seeing these three indexes. One is the Freedom and World Index, which is published from New York, which says, oh, after Modi ji has taken over, the democracy in India has gone down. Then I see the Economist Intelligence Unit, which is published by the Economist magazine, which says, no, India's democracy participation has gone down. Then I see an index called V-Dem Index, which says India's democracy participation has gone down. Three indexes which are quoted very widely in the Western press. I thought it is my duty to address this. Freedom and the World Index is quoted very widely, published from New York, which says India's democracy has deteriorated very deeply. Now, one fine jobless day, when I didn't have any work, I just went to this website. I was just scrolling through it to find what is this. Then, okay, how did they calculate the democracy score for India? Did they come to my country, our country? Did I interview people, gave them a questionnaire, took answers, and finally they compounded and said, yeah, democracy has come down. Then, very surprisingly, I found they didn't do any survey in India. No survey was taken, they haven't spoken to anybody, which is widely quoted. Then, okay, how did you arrive at the score for India? Then they said, we have arrived at a score because we have this residential in-house experts. And these residential in-house experts were given 25 questions. And these people answered the 25 questions. The cumulative score we have given for India. Great. Then who are those in-house experts? Again, jobless me, trying to find out who are those experts. They said they are human rights advocates, they are eminent intellectuals, they are professors. I said, how many people? 12 people. Sitting in New York. Each gets a questionnaire for 25 questions. Each fills it up by whatever he has read, whatever his their friends have told them. The net cumulative score, it gives India lower democratic rating. Right? Then the Economist Intelligence Unit. Now this is something which you have to take seriously because it is published by the Economist magazine, which is a very serious business magazine. Now, Economist Intelligence Unit actually goes to a country, talks to people, takes a survey and calculates the democratic score. Even in Economist Intelligence Unit, India's democracy score is falling down. Again, I was jobless, trying to go inside, scroll. So where did they actually go and take data? Is it like the hunger index of taking sample from 1,400 people out of the 140 crore? Did they do it like that? The Economist Intelligence Unit said, look, we are unbiased. We take our data from a world value survey. The world value survey goes across the world, they do data for us. Okay. When was the last survey conducted by the world value survey? The last survey conducted by the world value survey was in 2012. After 2012, world value survey never went anywhere, gave a question to a public and filtered. So 11 years what were we doing? Economist Intelligence Unit says, since the World Value Survey was not conducting a field survey, we also gave question to intellectuals and ranked India's score. Great. Now the third democracy index called the V-Dem Index. V-Dem Index is very popular with some of our political parties or opposition parties in India. Why? Because this V-Dem Index is fully funded by George Soros. And many of you would have heard about George Soros here, the Open Society Foundation. Now, George Soros is spending about $1.6 billion building a university in California. Now, South Africa, you want more universities, medical universities, and that is one of your wish list, that a lot of our children here should study medicine, which is a very fair request also. Now, this guy builds one university in California for $1.6 billion. Now I went and studied what is the motto of university. He says, it is to prevent the spread of nationalism. Bill Gates also puts his money in Africa. For what? To prevent the spread of malaria, to prevent the spread of cholera. So all great people, they put money. We have seen them in foundation. George Soros puts money because he wants to prevent the spread of nationalism. And he sees Modi as a nationalist. And he sees Modi being a nationalist as a threat to the world liberal order. So this George Soros, his company, he funds a freedom index. Now all the democratic index, the three main index in the world, if I can use one word for it, it is nonsensical. Done by jobless people, sitting in Western capitals, not having any job to do, doesn't even know what India is, giving a rating to India and calling India after 2014, after the arrival of Modi ji, it has started going down. Now this is something. Now this is where I believe the Indian diaspora, specifically the largest diaspora outside India and Durban, and which is 5 generation, 6 generation older. I see very little first generation guys working in software company here. I see a lot of 6th, 5th and 4th generation brothers and sisters who are here. I think this is where we believe in the coming times to come that you have to act as the first line of defense for our country, not cheerleaders. Because all of us have a connection to our motherland in different capacity. Maybe I as a citizen, or you tracing your route back by your umbilical cord connection. But the first line of defense meaning, India's story has to go global. Not because we don't want some children in Scandinavian country in textbook reading about beautiful India, beautiful Taj Mahal. We don't want that. But we firmly believe in this age and time, India can give solutions to the global problem. That is why this story has to go there. And second, 9 years, the kind of work Narendra Modi ji, the Indian government is able to do. 1947 till 2014, the number of toilets built in India, by government for 67 years is 6.4 crore. 67 years. 2014 to 2023, in 9 years, the number of toilet built by Mr. Modi ji is 11.2 crore. If you are going to look at the scale, here they are, just look at that scale. That too, we did it in a democracy, not like China where we went and said, draw a straight line, we'll put the road tomorrow and all of you get lost. Not like that. In a democracy, a complex, noisy democracy, where opposition parties rule a state, and all kinds of noisy things happens in India. 11.2 crore toilets built in 9 years. Now these numbers are not big things, sir, because many of you are number people here. I see a lot of academics here. I see a lot of accountants here, a lot of people who deal with numbers. Numbers are important. This 11.2 crore toilet is 11.2 crore family. This 11.2 crore family is nothing but a minimum of 11 crore women. Minimum. It could be 2 women, it could be 3, but minimum of 11 crore women is nothing but 110 million women. 110 million women for the first time in their life, they don't get up 1 hour before a male gets up. They don't walk 2 kilometers outside the village so that nobody should see them going for a natural call. And 3:30, 4:30 in the morning, they come back before the village wakes up in UP or Bihar or the interior parts of Tamil Nadu or in Andhra or in parts of Northeast. For the very first time in India, 11 crore sisters and mothers, they have a dignity. They don't go out because it is right in your home because the government subsidizes your toilet. It has built 11.2 crore. Now this is a great story for the world. How India can solve its own problem. Now for the very first time we see crores of houses built. Crores of houses built. For the very first time, people have a roof under them. The government of India promises them, you don't have a house of your own, it is my duty to build a house for you, which we will build it for you. Be it in urban, be it a rural area, different subsidy schemes will build it for you. And many times when simple karyakartas like me, when we travel deep inside the rural areas, the mother proudly tells me, sir, look at this house Modi ji built. And then she will call her daughter. My daughter for the very first time is going to get married in my own house, sir. And not that, sir. Only 2% of India's immovable property is in a woman's name. Immovable property, meaning land or a building, Out of the whole India, only 2% is in a woman's name. But the houses Modi ji builds, for them, 81% is in a woman's name. Because after 2016-17, the house gets registered to woman. First time she has got dignity. Not only the house is built, the house is also in my name. And 1947, freedom is only political, but not an economic freedom. As Rabindranath Tagore, very beautifully he said, a freedom has to be complete in all aspects. It has to be economic, it has to be cultural, it has to be political. Only when you are completely free, a true freedom is given. Now 1947 to 2014, yes, we were a free country, a free republic. But 2023, we can very safely call that the freedom is not only political, it is also economic. And these people have an economic freedom. 42 crore women in the last 9 years. Very first time they have a bank account, sir. Very first time. Very first time, 42 crore women in the last 9 years, they got a bank account to their name. Now the government of India, lakhs of crore rupee money that gets transferred to different schemes go to women in her account. She is not answerable to her father-in-law. She is not answerable to her husband. She is not answerable to anybody. The money is right in her account. Be it subsidy, she gets in her account. 42 crore people got a bank account. Now, many of my opposition friends say, oh, Modi ji has created bank account. How much money is inside the bank account? Now, 9 years Modi ji has completed. The 42 crore bank accounts that is there right now, the free bank accounts created by Modi ji, the combined deposit in that account is 1.7 lakh crore today. That much money has gone in a subsidy scheme to the right inside. Now, is it not an economic freedom? Now, the most important part is the cultural freedom. We can say, yes, Tagore clearly says, it has to be economic, it has to be cultural, it has to be spiritual, it has to be political. Now, we got political freedom in 1947. Now, very first time we say culturally also, we see the beautiful Bharatanatyam, I see. You are from Gujarat, madam, who danced here? You're from which state? Which state art form you? The lady sitting at the last. What is the dance you danced here? The Shiksha Institute. Them.
Second dance.
Okay. Bharatanatyam is the fusion. First was a pure Bharatanatyam, second was the fusion. Both are wonderful, sir. Like left eye and right eye, which eye will you choose? That level of proficiency they display. Now, for the very first time, with respect to the cultural space, we say we are completely operating in the Indian way. There is nothing wrong against Taj Mahal. It was a great monument built, preserved for a long time. Some British people wanted to dismantle Taj Mahal and take it to London. The Viceroy went there and saw. The only reason he dropped the plan because they couldn't find a convincing operational model to dismantle Taj Mahal and take it to Mumbai because they have to load it in a ship. So since they couldn't arrive at the model, Lord Wellesley, they said, okay, leave it, let Taj Mahal be there. Millions of artifacts looted out the country. Millions of artifacts. We go to some of the Western capitals, Albert Museum in Australia holds hundreds of pieces. Some of the best museums in the world displays our Nataraja, and many of our Indian artifacts are as a doormat or in rich people's home as a decorative piece. And it was only going out and out and out and out. If I give you the statistics, it will be very alarming. 1970 to 2014, which is a period of 44 years. 44 years, sir. 44 years, the number of artifacts we brought into our country is 13. The years are more, artifacts are less. 44 years from 1970 to 2014, the number of artifacts we brought back into our country, which is ours, is 13. 2014 to 2023, till yesterday, I am using the word yesterday because there is a significance to it. Till yesterday, the number of artifacts that have come into our country is 338. And yesterday we got 2 beautiful artifacts from US. After Narendra Modi's visit to US, they have agreed to give 105 artifacts back. Yesterday we got. So in that we got a Sambandha. People from Tamil Nadu knows the importance of Sambandha, which is 1,000-year-old artifact. We got a Nararaja, which is 1,200-year-old artifact. So among the lot of 105, we have 2 artifacts which are 1,000 years old. And first time entering India, which will go to a temple, and many people when you spoke here, spoke about Sanatana Dharma, which is timeless, which is religionless, which is all-encompassing, and which treats everybody equally, which takes everybody along. That is the beauty of Sanatana Dharma. And many Western people don't understand. They say it is a religion, they say it is exclusion, they say it is Hinduism, because Hinduism is never a religion, it is an all-encompassing way of life. That is how we lived. And when other religions came, they asked the question, since every religion has got a doctrine, what about Hinduism? That is why Vivekananda said, since all of you in 1993 in Chicago, you say, I come from this religion, I come from this religion, I come from this religion, I am forced to say, I come from the mother of all religion. He was forced to say that because the Western minds wanted to put Hinduism into a religion. Because Hinduism was a way of life. That is the essential part of Sanatana Dharma, which is, the literal meaning is timeless Dharma. For a timeless Dharma to exist in our country, the artifacts have to come back. We got to have a Sambandha, we got to have a Nataraja, we got to have all the things that made Sanatana Dharma possible 1000 years back. Now it is coming, 105 artifacts came, 338 now, 9 years, 13 and 44 years. Culturally also we are becoming independent now. We are doing it our way. Parliament was built in 1902. 121 years it was there. Now the new parliament we have opened, 28th of May 2023, the new parliament got opened. How did we open it? Designed by Tatas, built by Tatas, built by Indians, for Indian democracy it was opened. How was it opened? Sarva Dharma prayer. People from every single community religion came. They came from Muslim religion, they came from Christian religion, they came from Hindu, within quotes, religion. Sarva Dharma prayer was offered. Then the new parliament was dedicated. Then the Tamil friends who are here. And Modi ji gave the highest respect to Tamil culture. He got Sengol, which is a Chola symbol, which in the northern part of India we call the Dharma Dandi. And he wanted that Sengol to be in the people's seat of power, next to the speaker's chair. He wanted that Sengol to be there. And not only Sengol to be there, he called the Adinams from Tamil Nadu. All the 19 Adinams went. And these Adinams have a history of, some Adinams have a history of 850 years of uninterrupted history. Meaning 850 years there is somebody in the mud, one after the other managing that mud, the Saivat mud. So 19 Adinams went. And how was the Sengol taken? Thiruvasanam was sung, Devaram was sung, Kolal Padigam, which is a 9th century old stanza, was sung. And it was gone and placed. Immediately I see some of my opposition friends say, oh Modi ji, what is it doing? No Modi ji, you were 121 years in a colonial architecture that was leaking, rats were running. And suddenly we proudly built and dedicated ourselves a parliament with the revival of Indian culture, with Sengol, with Sarva Dharma prayer, everybody accommodated there. And suddenly you have a problem. They said, how can Sengol go inside? What is wrong with Sengol? Tirukkural, which is 2300 years old, which is older than any religion existing in this world. Tirukkural, there Tiruvalluvar writes, an Adhikaram called Sengonmai, he gives 10 Kural to Sengol. Then I have to tell my opposition friends, hello brothers and sisters, where is the word Sengol came? It is there in the ancient Sangam literature. It is there in Tirukkural. Even before a religion got formed in this world, there Tiruvalluvar gives 10 Tirukkural to Sengol, meaning he holds is vitally important. That Sengol is in parliament. This is a time for all of our Bharatiyas to get united and say, oh, it's a revival of our culture. Then what is your problem? So that is why the point number 3 is very crucial, because we are reviving our culture also. And culturally we are getting freed from the Western influence that we had. Nothing wrong with Western influence, but anyway, everything has got a place and time. That is why the India's context here, culturally, economically, politically, now coming to the political, the last part, I don't want to really inconvenience Madam Consular General who is sitting here. Now, how are we in the United Nations for a long time? And United Nations, our vote were tied to Western powers. And I know 10 years, 15 years before, if an Indian delegation goes to US, it goes through the same order. You meet some lower ranked person in the State Department, then you meet 1 or 2 senators, and then there will be one group in the US Senate, calling the religious group or the interfaith group or the human rights group, which will say, oh, there are human rights violations in India, and we are looking at it, we are concerned about it, and that will become, then our parliament MPs will be coming back. Now, fortunately, unfortunately, we got an external affairs minister by the name Dr. Jaishankar. Now, he goes to Washington. He takes a lot. He says, look, I don't know, he comes out with gems. Like Thirukural, he comes out with gems once in a while. He says, look, if you think there is a problem with us, then we think there is a problem with you as well. So we also have MPs. We also can study into the US model. When the US very overvalued research like Pew Index, when it says 97% of Indians practice their own religion without any discrimination, Pew Index. But the same Pew Index for US, it says only 64% of Hispanics practice their religion. Only 60% of blacks practice their religion without discrimination. Now you have the audacity to put a parliament group, a Congress group to say, we don't allow our minority friends to practice discrimination. And then he goes to Europe, he says, the problem with Europe thinks Europe's problem are the world's problem. And Europe thinks the world's problem are not the Europe's problem. So we disagree with it. Now, we have a truly independent foreign policy. And our independent foreign policy, be it Russia, Ukraine, or be it anywhere in the world, we put India's interest at the top, we make a decision. We don't care about the P5, we don't care about who you are. Whoever you are, God bless you. But we merely say, for any decision India has to make on the global problem, including the 2017, the Palestine issue, when we took a bold stand in the United Nations Assembly, or the Ukraine, or the multiple resolutions India has put up, we are very clear to advance India's interest. We will make a call that will put our country one step ahead of others. So foreign policy also very independent. So all the global powers want to quote India. So last 3 days we were in Johannesburg for the BRICS political party meeting. And now the African National Congress had invited 54 political parties. The ruling party of Russia, the opposition party of Russia was there. The ruling party of China, which is the one party, the Communist Party of China was there. Brazil had 2 parties, they were there. So every party were looking at BJP very differently now. And they want to have a chat. They say, look, Modi ji, now we invite BJP to come to our country. Please request your national president. Because they know BJP as a party is going to stand for a long time. Because we put country's interest every single time in the global stage. Now newfound respect we saw. And there is a deeper collaboration between the Bharatiya Janata Party and the African National Congress. And we have extended an invite to the ANC also to visit India soon, which they said they'll be visiting India very soon, a delegation from ANC also. The reason I'm putting this in perspective because we are living in one of the greatest period in India's civilizational history. The numbers, the data, the argument, the quality of democracy, the deepening democracy can only go up. I'm not specifically talking politics because Madam Consul General is here and I really don't want to inconvenience Madam because she is apolitical and tomorrow Congress person is coming and Madam will be there because you have chosen to invite Madam, community event and Madam will always come. So that is why I'm being very careful in not going politically on some subjects which I really want to do. And there is a separate occasion and place for doing that. The Bangalore meeting, the partner meeting. So we have a separate time to talk very deeply about it. So with this, I pay my compliments to everybody who is present here. And the sense of history is so overwhelming. 59,416 days is not a joke, madam. Not a joke, sir. Not a joke, brother and sister. And 59,000 days have passed. 284 trips of ships have passed. And 1,58,000 indentured laborers have come. Now you have made a life for yourself. And not only you have made a life for yourself, you are very proud people in South Africa are not forgetting the Indian roots. Turning up every time some Indian like me comes. Still you maintain that bond, maintain that culture. So what more privilege and blessing can we have? That is why the trip to Durban doesn't matter. Even if it's a one-night trip, even if it's a late-night trip, even if it's a 50-minute I have to speak in front of you, I will keep coming 1,000 times and the invitation is always coming to me, be it what time. Because so that is why the sense of history today was very overwhelming for me. I have gone to Sri Lanka. They are also exactly like you. The first ship left in 1822. which is 200 years. They are celebrating 200 years now. The first group of Tamilians, specifically because Tamil Nadu was closer to Sri Lanka, when they went to Sri Lanka, they thought they are going to Africa, or West Indies, or Suriname. They never knew they were going to Sri Lanka. And they were taken from Sivagangai, Tiruchi, Ramanathapuram, Pudukottai, Dindukkal, and they were made to go to Ramanathapuram, take a ship, boat from Ramanathapuram. Gulf of Mannar they crossed. They entered either the Mannar side or the northeast side, Trincomalee, the north side. They never had a clue they are going to Sri Lanka. I don't think any other community in the world history, they are displaced 5 times like the Sri Lankan Malayalam community. They are displaced 5 times. They can be really compared to the Jewish population. 1822 they went. The Britishers were so smart, they saw the ship, they saw the boat. One village, 20 people, one village, 10 people, one village, 20 people. They said, look, all of you go together to one place, you create trouble for me. They said, 5 of you here, 5 of you Kandy, 5 of you Nurelia, 5 of you here. They were just divided brutally. And they trekked hundreds of kilometers in that forest. And the villages were separated brutally. They went and occupied places, which was forest, bisons, tigers. With their bare hands, they started taming it. Then the jute went in, then the tea went in. Then they were there. Sri Lanka got independence. The first thing then the Sri Lankan government did is, they made this Malayalam Tamil stateless. They said if your father is not born here, you don't have a Sri Lankan citizenship. That went on for 20 years. Then there was a Lal Bahadur Shastri Pact. India agreed to take 5 lakh people inside. Then first displacement from Tamil Nadu, second displacement inside Sri Lanka, third displacement after Sri Lanka's independence. Then India took back 5 lakh people inside. The fourth displacement, they were randomly given to Ooty in Tamil Nadu, Munnar in Kerala, Sulliya in Karnataka, because they have to get settled in that mountainous parts which they are used to in Sri Lanka. Now, when I went to Sri Lanka for the first time, I really wanted to trace that. I said as a Tamilian, I wanted to see the route they have gone. I told a friend in Colombo, we have to travel all the way to Nurelia. He said 6.5 hours. We said we will travel. Went there, saw it. Their 8th generation, 9th generation, 10th generation living there. In the high mountains of Sri Lanka. So, it is always an overwhelming emotion when you come. Though my ancestors never took that risk. But your ancestors took that risk because maybe they studied Mahakavi Bharatiya. Later he came. He says, Tiraikadal Odiyum Traviyam Ted. If you have to make a good living, Mahakavi Bharatiya writes in the later part of 1900s, he says, if you have to take a good living, don't be afraid to cross the sea. Bharati writes, Tiraikadal Odiyum Traviyam Ted. Just go there and make a life of your want. So your ancestors took that risk. So I don't know what mindset they should have boarded that ship, with what mindset they should have come. So we all owe a huge debt of gratitude to them. I only request you very humbly to stand up and bow down your head in prayer for all the forefathers, the ancestors who have come from there, for giving us a life, for giving us a meaning in a distant land. So with this, I want to end my small comments here. I go back to India with a very enriched understanding of Indians in South Africa. So that wherever I get the opportunity, I'll be your voice in India. In very powerful forums, in very powerful groups, where powerful people say, but I can always be able to say, look, I see this problem. I see a problem in education institutions. The Indians are coming down drastically. The professors, the principals have come down, shrunk. And people find it very hard to get into a medical school because of the policy that is followed. And the political voice. These are very important lessons for me over the last 4 or 5 days in South Africa. So I go back humbled, I go back enriched, I go back as a sincere brother of you. Wherever I get the opportunity, after Sri Lankan visit with a couple of BJP leaders, we have become very aggressive over the Sri Lankan issue. Because I think the gentleman who's sitting here, we have become very aggressive. It has taken me to London, it has taken me to the Westminster Hall. We work very closely with the global Tamil forums. We try to find a solution to it because we believe it is our problem, it is not their problem. So the Tamil Nadu Bharatiya Janata Party, the leaders in Tamil Nadu, we firmly believe the Sri Lankan problem is our problem. If we don't solve it now with Modi ji here, I don't think anybody is going to solve that problem. That is why we become very aggressive. We conduct protest meetings. Because in the heart we believe we have to solve it. So likewise, your problem is our problem. And we will stand with you. We will continue to speak for you. And I'm very sure, in a very democratic process, with a very friendly country, we will find ways to solve our problem. I'm very confident about it. Thank you so much. Sorry, I believe your dinner is already 10:05. And standing between you and dinner, thank you so much. It's a great honor to come here. God bless you all. God bless South Africa. God bless all of us.
Dear guests, we would like to have a short round of questions and replies from Honorable Annamalai ji. So I would like the person in charge of the roving mic to, we're going to limit, just take only 10 questions, but please keep the questions relevant to our meeting today. No internet type of questions. Make it relevant to our purpose of gathering here with the Honorable BJP member and the link between the diaspora. So somebody would need to just write these questions down. So first, introduce yourself. One question per person, please.
Welcome, Shri Annamalai to Durban, South Africa. I speak to you with two hands. The Hindu Unity Forum of South Africa that's going to be launched on the 30th of July. I very much like to comment for the unity of Hindus, especially here in South Africa. I know you arrived here and many things have been spoken to you. Also, I just want to place on record, very soon there will be a launch of the African Hindu Party. We very much like everyone to know that. We're not ashamed and we don't have fear in that. We very much like your support as well, because it's a fact of what Hindus have gone through, especially in South Africa, the silent genocide on Hindus. We were to be about 1 million Hindus, but now we are less than 500,000. And that's a silent genocide that needs to be addressed even by the government of India as well. We have a lot of issues in the country. I wish we could have more time to speak to you directly about certain issues. We must not shy away from our issues, and I think it's very good that you spoke about a lot of things over here. And I would like you to please take this genocide about Hindus in this country to another level. Because today what you spoke about, attack on Hinduism and India, was on a platform that I was on WhatsApp, single-handedly, attacking those who are attacking us innocently because of the Soros connection. Thank you.
I think that was a comment rather than a question for on that side, and then I'll come to you. Okay? Just 1 minute, he was before you. Sorry, introduce yourself, please. And keep your question brief, please, because our guest hasn't had dinner yet.
I bid you welcome from my heart with much love, my son. Okay? When I was young,
The mic is
sorry. When I was young, my grandfather used to tell us. When I was young, my grandfather used to tell us, only good Muslim is a dead one. So I ask you, what is the consideration of the BJP to those who have not died in Bharat and who are multiplying rapidly, and also to the rapid infiltration of India by the Pakistanis? Thank you.
Thank you. The next question.
Okay, thank you very much.
First, introduce yourself.
Sorry, my name is Marvin Gambanda. I represent a civic in Phoenix called the Phoenix Tenants and Residents Association. And I also strongly believe in human rights activism. So the question I have, Mr. Annamalai, is the Jaffna Tamils, when will they receive citizenship from India? Those that have gone as refugees in Tamil Nadu. Thank you.
Next question. I think it's Mr. Krish Govender.
Thank you very much. I think the wonderful thing we have in South Africa is our democracy, and something we cherish is the freedom of speech and the right to differ. And I must differ with my friend who spoke earlier for the benefit of our esteemed guests and our Consul General, who would be the first to say, there is no genocide of Indians in South Africa. Please. We have to be, or even Hindus, or Tamils, or Telugus. We are South Africans, we are Africans on the continent. And despite the problems we have in South Africa, economically, and even dealing with affirmative action for the majority, there is a complex history that has to be overcome. And I would want us here, especially people listening to this, the word genocide is serious. Genocide was committed against the Tamils in Sri Lanka. That can be proven academically, scientifically, physically, and in every legal way possible. And that we appreciate what our Honorable Minister from India has said about the fact that problems of the Tamils in Sri Lanka is a problem that the Indians, that India accepts as their problem, and I'm saying more specifically, our Honorable Shri Annamalai. It's something we would hold dearly that he would take up, and I hope we'll be able to have an opportunity to deal with it further. But please, in this country, we have problems, but our constitution and our weak state as it is now is still able to protect us against any kind of genocide talks and any kind of violence which may take place, but it will be managed in a very difficult environment that we are in. I speak also as a human rights activist and a lawyer, and I'm open to more discussions on this by anybody in this kind of peaceful environment where we can debate anything. We recognize the problems of Muslims in India, but we must support, as our minister said, the problems of India is the problems that the diaspora must defend and help resolve. The unity of India with all their Muslims, 300 million people, cannot be just wished away. They are part of India, and we must respect the efforts that the BJP is even making to build that unity and to bring peace. And will set an example to the other Arab nations in the Middle East who cannot even stand up for the Palestinians and have sold them down the drain. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. Just going to take one more question. There's a question here, Desi Sula. Then, all right, while she's there, Prof. Anil Chaturvedi. Sorry.
Thank you very much for a very enlightening and eloquent talk that you've given us. I think as South African Indians, you rightly said that our heart belongs in India, so we consider India as the motherland and South Africa as the fatherland. Having said that, I'm from an educational background, and one of the things that our country lacks severely, in which you are streets ahead of us, is in the farming industry and biotechnology. I think we look greatly to you to lead us in terms of establishing this in South Africa, because we have very many resources, and I would really appreciate if you connect us with the relevant people in India, so that you have a head start, and especially when you mentioned the vaccine, the way that you handle the vaccine initiative is very admirable. So my question will be related more to the education and the farming industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Anil Chaturvedi, who is the Dean of Research at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. There was one gentleman. Yeah, 1 minute. I finished that side. Please introduce yourself.
Anna, vanakkam. My name is Sundar, son-in-law of Guru Sharma. So, I proudly wanted to say to all my South African family who was sitting here, the first ever political party person who came from my state was representing here. That is very wonderful news to everyone. It's a proud moment for me also as a Tamilian. Number two, we all talk about political issues and other sort of things. Now my question is, for South Africa, so we talk about India, what sort of companies are they going to come and invest in South Africa for job opportunities that I wanted to know from the government aspects? Thank you.
Thank you very much. One last question.
Namaskar, Annamalai Garu. Thank you for being here this evening. My question is relating to what you said about India being our motherland. It really breaks our hearts, some of us anyway, when we see what's happening to the temples in India. What is going to be done to take back control of the temples in India? And also the persecution of some of the Hindus in certain states. We see it happening, but we don't see much assistance there. So is there anything happening in the background? What is being done to help the persecuted Hindus in India, as well as those Hindus in Pakistan, Bangladesh? What is India doing to assist those people? We hear stories of people going to India as refugees, but not being helped. Thank you.
Thank you. I will call upon Shri Annamalai to provide appropriate responses.
Sorry again that we have to keep you till about 10:25. And in South Africa, even shops close by 8 o'clock. Yesterday I was searching for a hotel. They said it closes by 8 p.m. I said, look, it's a global city, Johannesburg. How can you close shop at 8:30, 8 o'clock, and how can you be a big city? They said, no, we have to change it, but that's how it is. So 10:30 keeping you is a sin. I'll take very little time to just quickly run through all the questions that you have answered. I think a couple of questions are directly addressed to the CG madam, more about the opportunities in South Africa, the companies that are going to come, especially in the pharma. I leave it to madam. Probably, I'm sure there will be an occasion, because the next 2 months, madam is coming right out of a maternity leave for the last 3 months. She's on a break and she's getting back. I'm sure there will be a session where madam can address and talk. So it is purely, I'm leaving it there. The rest of the 6 questions I will try and answer it. To essentially put what Bharatiya Janata Party is, I think I have to take about 4 or 5 minutes to position BJP, because a lot of people, my friends from the human rights, a lot of people, they tend to see still BJP with a slight lens. So it is my duty to position it correctly. Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji till now has received the highest honor of a country in 13 countries. 13 countries have given till now the highest honor to our Prime Minister, meaning the highest civilian award. 8 of those 13 are hardcore Muslim countries. And 8 of those 13 Islamic countries, they have chosen to give their highest civilian honor, which is not reserved for the American president, not reserved for a French president, not reserved for the German chancellor. They have reserved it for the Indian Prime Minister because they see something which I believe all of us have to see. And BJP as a party, we deeply believe India is truly a secular country. And many communities, religions that is in India has strengthened the fabric of Bharatiya. And that truly makes India for what it is. As the great Vivekananda ji said, the different strands of a religious prayer or the way we worship a God, it is all like small river streams. It all has to merge into a mighty river. And that mighty river being Bharatiya, and some rivers could be big, some rivers could be small. BJP, we are very, very clear and we are very conscious of it. That is why when Atal Bihari Vajpayee, when he got the very first opportunity, when BJP as a party, we are in existence with Jan Sangh in 1952, and from 1980, April onwards, BJP as a party. We waited so long to come to power, so long to come to power. Jan Sangh was there, emergency, post-emergency, coalition, then BJP formed in 1980, April. Then 1998, 1999, finally when we got that power, where we could do many things as a party based on ideology, when we got the first opportunity to nominate the president of our country, my party chose to nominate a practicing Muslim to it called APJ Abdul Kalam. When we would have nominated anybody in our country, we would have nominated hardcore practicing Hindutva in India, but Vajpayee ji chose to nominate a practicing Muslim, APJ Abdul Kalam. This is a very important history which we shouldn't forget. That shows BJP for what it is, because we saw Abdul Kalam ji not as a Muslim, not as a Hindu, not as a Christian. We saw him as a patriotic Indian. And that is BJP for you. Then again, when Modi ji came to power in 2014, when he had 2 chances to nominate the president of India, meaning the first citizen of our country, in the first chance Modi ji had, he chose to nominate a very eminent brother from the SC community, Ramnath Kovind. When Modi ji had the second opportunity to nominate a president, he chose to nominate a very eminent person from the scheduled tribe community, Madam Draupadi Murmu. I don't think any political party in the world, in any constitutional democracy, would have lived a true secularism like what BJP has done now. Now, I am the president of BJP in Tamil Nadu. In the last 2 years, I am hosting Iftar. The president of BJP in Tamil Nadu, I am hosting Iftar. I don't wear a skull cap, but I host Iftar. Because my meaning of secularism as a BJP Karyakarta is very clear. I practice my religion, you practice your religion. Every religion is same. There is nothing called my religion is greater or your religion is small. But as this citizen of this country, with a brotherly affection, I am hosting an Iftar. I am inviting my Muslim friends. Please come. I am not going to do fake secularism for you by wearing a skull cap, because I don't wear a skull cap. I wear vibhuti. I am not going to ask you to wear a vibhuti because you have to wear a skull cap as per your religious tradition. So I am doing it for 2 years running. 2 years, I am also hosting a Christmas function. BJP Tamil Nadu officially is hosting Christmas function, which in Tamil we call Samattuva Christmas, calling a secular Christmas. We invite every single leader there, we cut a cake, there is also a wine mixing ceremony we do it. So this is something which many friends have to understand, because we are the next generation Karyakartas in BJP. We follow our leaders like Modi ji. So we don't do this nakul, what is this? A fake secularism. But unfortunately people believe doing this fake secularism means you are respecting all religion. Very proudly as party Karyakartas, we respect every single religion, but we don't do fake secularism. We believe everybody is same, this country is for everybody. It is not a joke BJP wins in Mizoram, BJP wins in northeastern states. We are power in northeast, sitting in power is northeastern states. Our chief ministers are sitting in power. States which have got 60% Christian population. BJP is in power. A state like Goa, which has got 26% Christian population, we are in power for 4 times. And very proudly we say, when we talk about the uniform civil code in our country, when I see statements coming from this political party or coming from somebody in US, when they make statements called the human rights people, they have to understand. In our constitution, when there was a debate on the uniform civil code, I urge my friends to read what exactly the debate that happened inside the Indian Parliament when our constitution got drafted. 5 people spoke in the constitutional debate. 5 people spoke. 2 gentlemen, including Mr. Ismail from Muslim community, spoke. K.M. Munshi spoke. Already Krishnaswamy Iyengar spoke. The final gentleman who spoke is B.R. Ambedkar. Only 5 people in the Indian constitution debate they spoke on uniform civil code. What did Ambedkar speak? He said this country belongs to everybody, including the northwest frontier province. Till 1937, there was nothing called Shariat law. Including northwest frontier province, every single part of India had a single law. Only in 1937, Shariat law came into northwest frontier province. The central province got Shariat law in 1940. Because it's such a complex country. If I go to Madam State is a matriarchal society, some parts of the state, because the property goes to women. If I go to parts of Karnataka, even now, it's a matriarchal state. In the coastal Karnataka, the property goes to women, the house goes to women, the house doesn't come to men. If you come to my part of Tamil Nadu, the central part of Tamil Nadu, the property comes to a male. So 1956, when the Hindu Code Bill came, which became an act, where we said, look, everybody is equal, including my community, which was enjoying the privilege till 1956 of 100% property coming to a male. We said in 1956, women have got an equal right to inherit. What is wrong? Absolutely right. From 1956, the Hindu communities enjoys an equal right, where the male and the female born in the same community, they get equal right to property. That is a change. That is a very important change in a democratic society. Likewise, when the Supreme Court gave a judgment in the Shah Banu, when it said a woman who is divorced has got every right to get a monthly maintenance, which is the norm in every liberal democratic order, the Parliament of India chose to pass an act overriding the Supreme Court judgment saying, if a Muslim woman gets divorced, she is not eligible for a monthly maintenance. Now when BJP is trying to reverse it, why do people call us secular? When the hardcore Islamic countries, including 100% Islamic countries which follow Shariat law, when they don't have a triple talaq in their own country, when 90% of Muslim countries don't have triple talaq, when BJP abolishes triple talaq in India, why do people call BJP as secular? People have to understand history in perspective. We are trying to right an historical wrong that has happened. Now in the Uniform Civil Code, when there is a debate that is happening in India, that women have equal right, equal access to property, equal access to maintenance. What is wrong in it? How does secular come in? Or when we say in the Christian community, the section 10, it says when a Christian community couple doesn't have children, the inheritance of property goes to the husband. When in the Uniform Civil Code the debate is happening, no, when a Christian couple doesn't have a children, it has to go equally between a husband and a wife. The husband can decide 50% of the property, the wife can decide 50% of the property. What is wrong in it? This is what Mr. Ambedkar spoke in the parliament. I feel really sad when half-baked Indian politician doesn't understand history, doesn't understand Ambedkar. And they paint the BJP as a party that is not secular. It pains my heart. So that is why, to my friends who is watching the video, who is watching from outside, they have to understand, we are a truly 100% secular party. If there is one party in India which will stand for Muslim women, we are the only party in India which is standing with Muslim women. We are standing with the Muslim system, which we proudly take a bullet to say. If people say, oh, Annamalai is hosting an iftar party, Annamalai has to wear a skull cap. I am not going to wear a skull cap to prove I am secular. I am going to wear a vibhuti. Sitting next to an Islamic brother and sister, hosting an iftar party forum with a brotherly affection to prove I am secular. I don't want to wear a skull cap. If Congress is doing it, God be with them. And this is our secularism, because Abdul Kalam ji in Rashtrapati Bhavan as a president, his day will not start without playing a veena. He is a true patriotic Indian. Now suddenly the Western liberal democratic order criticizing, questioning. When there is a problem in Manipur, we will solve the problem in Manipur within India. It is a problem between two tribal communities. They are at fight. It is not today's problem. It is an age-old problem in Manipur. 2012, there was a problem. After the High Court judgment, there is a problem now. The whole of India were ashamed by the video that got out 2 days before. We all hang our head in shame that this has happened to a woman in our country in Manipur who was paraded naked. We hang our head in shame, but we will find a way to punish them. Because this is not a kangaroo country. This is a democratic country with democratic institutions, with the rule of law. We will find a way to hunt those people and punish them. And BJP will do it. We are confident we will do it. That is what our Prime Minister Modi ji told in Delhi today morning. And we don't want any Western people to give us a lecture on how to conduct the Indian affairs. We are very bold, we are very confident, and we are an emerging power, and we will do it our way. The reason I am telling you is because I think this answers many questions. I am a small man in the party. I am just 38 years old. But I reflect the passion of my leaders. Because we believe we will not see a problem in our country of 300 million, 30 crore Muslims. I really don't use the term called 30 crore Muslims, this many Christians. I see everybody as an Indian. And for me, everybody is same. I never wear a tinted glass to say this, that and everything. You can check the recorded history of Modi ji speaks. So Modi ji in Turkey, when he lands, he goes to a mosque. Nobody talks about it. Just a month back, nobody talks about it. And Modi ji celebrates Bora Muslim movement, nobody talks about it. And 8 Islamic nations have given the highest civilian honor to a Prime Minister, including the Middle East countries, which don't see eye to eye with each other. Why people don't talk about it? And people want to talk about secular this and that. And the second group of major question is about the citizenship for the Tamils. To put things in perspective, the Citizenship Amendment Act that we got, which is very rightfully for the persecuted community in certain countries, 4 countries, which have declared themselves as Islamic countries. The minorities inside were persecuted based on religion. So those 4 countries qualified, and people are waiting in queue for a long time. They are being granted Indian citizenship. Now the problem of Sri Lankan Tamils is a very important problem, very important issue that is happening. Now, because this I am taking some extra time because Sir is also sitting in the stage, I want to give a sense of history. Now for the Tamils issue, it has happened multiple ways. One, there is a question of stateless citizen after Sri Lanka became independent, and 5 lakh people which India agreed to take inside India from Sri Lanka. That commitment is honored, everybody is inside. Now the second issue is on the violence in the northeast part, the Colombo violence also, where the Sri Lankan Tamils came out. Not the Indian origin Tamils. The Tamils in Sri Lanka has 2 parts. The first Tamils in Sri Lanka are the Sri Lankan Tamils, which predominantly live in northeast. The second Tamils of Sri Lanka are the Indian origin Tamils, called the Malayaga Tamils, who went to Sri Lanka starting from 1822 for 200 years. Now the Malayaga Tamils issue is when they became stateless people after 1948, which is solved, no issue in that. Now the issue that my brother is asking a very rightful question there is about the Sri Lankan Tamils who came out of Sri Lanka into Tamil Nadu at different points of time, especially after the violence started, and they are in camps in Tamil Nadu. Now, this is something the BJP Tamil Nadu openly, on record we have said, they should be granted Indian citizenship. On record, BJP Tamil Nadu we have said, we have urged our Honorable Home Minister also, that they should be considered for Indian citizenship. And again, there is a complexity. The complexity of 2 parts. One, technically when when they entered India, they made an illegal entry into India because they have to flee themselves from an oppression. And one group came directly into India, the second group were born in India. Now there are two categories to it. One, born in camps. And for many people outside, especially I keep reading the American press that, oh, the camps are like this. If you come to any camp in Tamil Nadu, people don't live in camps, people live outside. And people are software engineers in Cognizant, people are software engineers in TCS, people study in medical colleges, people study in schools. It is not that technically they live in camps. They are camp people, but they are free to go anywhere, pursue what they want, including a profession, including study. Now, off and on, when issues happens about driving license, I've got a problem which we solved it. There was a question about signature being done every 1 month, that we have solved it. So, we have to understand it is not that they have a problem. Problems are being attended. But the question of granting a citizenship is going through a certain process. A small minority of them is wanted in Sri Lanka for some cases. There is an issue between Sri Lanka and India. A large majority of them don't have a problem, but they are sons and daughters of a father who is wanted in a case. The reason I am being more elaborate on this is, the government of India is conscious of this matter, and something will happen, which we are very confident, because as a political party, we are voicing for them also, and we believe they should get citizenship. This is to answer your question, sir. We are for them, no doubt about that, but there is a complexity which we will try and solve. Now, madam, about temples. The temples, especially in Tamil Nadu, I am sure this question is more Tamil Nadu centric, which I assume and answer. Now, Tamil Nadu is a land of temples, very rich state with respect to Sanatana Dharma, temples and the religious practice. Now, this is something which I keep discussing within the Swamijis and very eminent people within the Hindu community also, that it is important that the next generation becomes guardians of their own practice. Government by its very nature in a democracy can only do very little. This I am saying as a politician. And we don't have a police state like how Hitler used to run, where they can do everything. So the generations of Hindus who come one after the other, it is important they preserve it, they have a sense of identity. The parents teach them right into the practices, right into worship, right into a way of life. So when we keep doing a proper job, the next generations, they keep preserving the cultural identity. Now when we don't do this job of teaching them, job of educating them, job of giving them exposure, somehow, be it Hindu, be it Muslim, be it Christian, the next generation, they somehow lose a sense of identity. They don't see a temple the way you see it. Or they don't see a temple the way our grandfathers saw it. So this I think is the first problem, more than the government problem. So it is a problem that Hindu community has to look within and solve it. The second problem with respect to Tamil Nadu very specifically is the Tamil Nadu Hindu Religious Charitable Endowment Act came in 1950s. And the original act is very clear that it cannot alter the nature of worship in a temple. It can only be there as a government entity to make sure the bhaktadigal, meaning the devotees are not inconvenienced and the revenue stream is maintained properly. The government doesn't have any right to interfere in Uchikala Puja or the Arkala Puja or everything. But very unfortunately in Tamil Nadu, the problem over the years has been more about the government interfering into the essential religious practices. That as BJP, we have made it very openly in Tamil Nadu. We said whenever God gives us, BJP, the power to govern and to serve our people, we said day one, the temples of Tamil Nadu would be freed from the religious control of TNHRC. That is something as a leadership we are committed to. Because we were very clear, every community has to manage their religious practice. Be it a Christian, be it a Muslim, be it a Hindu, we have to manage our own religious practice. Now DMK and us, we have a fight. Next question they ask is, okay, now if you don't want the governments to control, then don't you think again the same group will come and occupy the temple? Now we keep asking, what is that same group you are meaning? In Tamil Nadu, there is nothing called a group. Before the Hindu TNHRMC came in 1952, each temple was managed by a community. For example, Chidambaram temple by Dikshitas. Dikshitas are less than 3,000 in number, a very unique group within the Brahmin community, which Supreme Court has acknowledged in 1954. But because of the essential religious practice, Dikshitas can manage Chidambaram temple, which small friction, which we support them, we solve it. If you go to the Kali temple in Chennai, if any of you have the opportunity to visit Kali temple, which Veera Shivaji visited, Kali temple is as old. Kali temple was managed by a community of Hindus. Likewise, most temples in Tamil Nadu belong to a certain community. And the community manages them, including my own Kuladevada, is managed by a certain community over the last 400-500 years. So everything was going okay. Till the Britishers came in, they started dividing Hindu community on caste line. They said upper caste, lower caste, you are managing. It was never there before the Britishers came. Now this is a better way where the communities take rightful control of each of their temples. They run it, they manage it, but they open the temples to every single person in our country on constitutional norms. That is the only way, because 1954 it was like that. Only after 1954 they started entering, they made a mess of managing the temple. Now other problem also, now HRMC doesn't have staff to run the temple. There is something called a fit officer in the HRMC Act. A fit officer manages 10 temples. So right now, including buying an oil, it has to go to that guy to get signature. Including buying a mala, it has to go to the guy to get a signature. So how come the Arakala pujas happen? So that is something which a public perception has to be built, because the politicians are very smart. However, a political party, even if they don't believe in God, when they sit in power, if the public opinion is for something, they will change themselves. So in Tamil Nadu, it is very important, more than a political party, the public opinion has to be built. They have to understand these temples are timeless sculptures, timeless Sanatana Dharma. There is no value to it. And they have to understand there is somebody who is destroying it. And the moment a public momentum is built, I am sure that half the problem in Tamil Nadu is solved, madam. That is what we are working on it. So right now we have a cell in BJP which is called Religious and Places of Worship and Temple Development Cell. So we have a unit in BJP. So we are encouraging people within the unit. Hindus are part of it, Muslims are part of it, Christians are part of it. We are encouraging them, please build awareness. For example, as Hindus, please build awareness on temple. As Christians, please build awareness on churches. Because if there is an issue between two groups who is fighting for land, please try and solve it. As Muslims, we say, please build awareness on so many things. So we run a cell, probably as a political party we run it, because we want to solve this problem, if not today, tomorrow, madam. But again, it's a long issue, but it is there for the last 70 years. With God's grace, when whoever in BJP comes to power, whichever team is sitting at whatever point of time, I'm sure 100% they will do it, madam. Then the other major questions are about, okay, genocide, no genocide. I'm very conscious, sir. And I am not a rabble rouser. I am very clear as a politician. I speak a language that is very, very tempered. I respect each of you what you spoke. When somebody used the word called genocide there, somebody said, I don't agree with the genocide there. I respect both of you's opinion. Because I stand in the land of Nelson Mandela. And 27 years later, when he came out of jail, when they asked him, did you forgive your oppressor? When I read his quote, it was really overwhelming. He said, look, I have forgiven my oppressor. They said, why did you forgive this oppressor? 27 years, Robben Island, they have put you. He said, look, if I don't forgive my oppressor, if I have it in the heart, which means I am still living in the jail. For me to be completely free, I have to forgive my oppressor. Only then, it's a very powerful quote from one of the most powerful iconic statesmen from South Africa. So my thing as a politician, I'm very clear, sir. I am here to solve a problem. In Sri Lanka also, my words are very careful. When many friends wanted me to use a certain word, I said I will not use it. Only thing I say is, look, I am here as a messenger of solving a problem. Let us solve a problem. As other Tamil politicians, I don't want to add more petrol to a problem and make it more inflamed and make it more emotional. and get that extra votes. I don't want that extra votes. If, as a politician, if I can be a part of the solution, I will always take that part. So I respect both of your opinions, sir. And I really don't have a comment on it, but I believe, as I told to my question number 1, the next generation of Hindus, because you asked a very specific question on Hindus, that they have to teach their children more about these practices. They have to guard it closely. And we have to spend time to our kids, take them inside, show a temple, show a god, teach him what Sanatana Dharma is, not merely telling him how to worship, but to go in detail about how a temple is built. A temple is the most scientific way a temple is built. You all know how a temple is built. It is the highest form of science. You basically select a land where a temple has to be built. Then you cultivate, in South India we cultivate a rice or other parts of barley. In that market space, then the first rice that comes, you take that rice grain, you multiply by 8 times. That is going to be the value of the building. Then the whole temple architecture has to follow that rice multiplied by 8 times. So that very scientifically, right from a temple wall to a god, to a size of a god standing inside, to the vigraha, to the parigara, everywhere you multiply the same logic of 8. The base of that 8 is one rice or a barley. That is pure science. So how many of us take a child into a temple and teach them? You are standing in the most scientific, you are standing in the most highest form of science a human can achieve. So when you teach him like that, he links a science to a god. When we simply take him to a temple and say, you got to put a vibhuti, you got to put your hand like this, you got to pray a god. And these guys are not interested. The current, including my son, they have become very noisy, very argumentative. My son is only 8 years old. Everything he questions. Why God? Why no God? What is this theory? What is this Big Bang? What is this evolution? So it requires a lot of patience as parents to sit with them, to link science to it, and to finally teach them religion is nothing but the highest evolution of science. When we do it, where is the threat to each community, sir? Who is going to threaten us? And this Sanatana Dharma has lived 1 lakh years. And who in the power in this earth has got to destroy it in a matter of 10 years or 15 years in a democratic system? So with this, I thank all of you again for asking this question. Sorry, I've become very passionate when I defend a BJP, or as a BJP Karyakarta, I talk about my party, because I really wanted to convey it in the sincerest terms of who we are as a party. Because that is very important to understand for others. BJP truly represents Bharatiya for what it is. We are absolutely secular. We are there for every single 142 crore citizen of our country, and we will continue to stand with them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable Shri Annamalai ji, because I think it put to rest all the speculation and noise that people make in our community about Bharat. In closing this function, I would like to call the Honorable Consul General, Dr. Thelma John, to give a few concluding remarks and to say thank you to all of you.
Namaskaram. Good evening to you all. And thank you, Pradeep ji, for especially inviting me here. I think for me, it has been truly an honor to hear from Shri Annamalai ji what I would call the India Kada, the India story. And I think that's a story which we in Durban have been waiting for some time to hear. And I tell, honestly, I think the community here has been waiting to be connected again with India. And I should thank the BRICS, which is being hosted by South Africa, for bringing people across the oceans again to this shows. I always talk about the 3 C's that connect us across the Indian Ocean, the connections of the indentured laborers who came, the people who came in various ships, both as indentured and passenger ships, the people who kept the culture alive here, and the connections that were maintained over by the trade. And I think truly that is what connects us today. And as we stand today as partners of 30 years of democratic partnership between the two countries, it speaks volumes about where we will go forward. I just want to say a few things in terms of the India Kada that we all heard today. It's a story of a democratic and a proud India, an India which is 75 years young and looking forward to being 75, another 25 years of the Amrit Kal. And that's the journey which Shri Annamalai ji has spoken to us today. And that's a journey which India looks forward to lead with South Africa, with other countries in the world stage. It's a story of the demography of India, which is not something which we are looking as a burden, but it's truly going to be our, I would say, the weapon for the future. And that is the story which I think today we hear in this shows, and where we also look at finding solutions to development, solutions. I should say that if India can solve a problem, I can assure you it will be the cheapest and the most effective solution for the world. And today, if we say we have built, I think if I'm correct, 110 million toilets, right? I mean, crores? Yeah, 110 million toilets. So that's 2 toilets for every person here in South Africa. And I'm sure that is the cheapest technology that is available. And we have technology to share. We recently had the Sulabh toilet founder coming here and offering the technology. And we are happy to take this forward because we believe that the technology and the development that we have in India is for the world, and that is the essence of the Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. The last but not the least is, I think today we hear the India Kada about what we should truly has the diversity and the divinity and the devotion that we all nurture and we are all proud to be it Hindu, Muslim, Indian, Sikh or Buddhist. I think today we have an India story that we are all proud to be devote in whatever we do and to take that forward. And that is a sense we have as an India story. And thank you, Shri Annamalai ji, for coming to Durban and to sharing this story with us. And the land where Nelson Mandela and Mahatma Gandhi walked, it is indeed a privilege for us to have you here. And I'm sure the people here will be truly inspired by your words and your vision as we go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thelma. We've come to the end of an event that will go down in the history of both the temple and the diaspora or the indenture, or fondly called the Girgit community. Our Honorable Shri Annamalai ji will take photographs, but please be patient. We're going to have supper first, or we take photos first, and then we'll have supper. So we do appreciate and we thank all of you, and a special thanks to Shri Mariamman Temple, the trustees, and to our president here, Dr. Kesabal Devrat from Indasa, who have made all the arrangements for hosting Dr. Annamalai. Shri Annamalai.